Yo. What's good, my friends? How do you do? Boom, 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 beam, bum. I'm doing good. Doing real good. How are you guys? What's up? You must bounce on it. Bounce on it. I haven't seen that. No. Crazy style. That's funny. He came live just as the video I was listening to ended. What a coinky dink. Everything in the universe has lined up just specifically for now. Do you feel summoned? I feel like I just summoned you. I was literally just looking for a stream right now. The notification popped up. Dude, we are all each other, experiencing each other all at one time. Ready to relax, some scary stories. Well, you're just in time. We got Appalachian. Even though I want to say Appalachia, Appalachian. I mean, should I, honestly, at the end of the day, it's like, everyone in my area says Appalachian. I'll be 100% honest with you. I've never met anyone in real life that says Appalachian. And I know it's dependent upon the locality. Perceiving the experience of perceiving our experience. Raise your hand if you are a tad high. High. Yeah, we've all been sniffing poop out of a jar today. Dialect is regional. That's what I thought. But I just hate like getting shit. And it's whatever, who cares? I'll probably still say Appalachian just to avoid the frustrations. And our hills. I know. It's so silly. Just got done opening Pokemon packs and got Flareon full art. Oh shit, dude. I've been getting back into Pokemon cards. I'll have to take a picture and post it on my story, but ever since I was young, I always wanted like a full sleeve with all the starters, you know, Venusaur, Squirtle, Charmander, but then all the way up to the holographic evolutions of Blastoise and Venusaur and Charizard. So guess what? I freaking did it. I went out and bought them. They got graded, all that kind of stuff, and now I got it. I got it on display. I never really spend money on like anything, but that was just something that I really wanted. And can I say staring at it brings me some deep pleasure? Not really, but it's cool to look at, and people see it and they're like, whoa, dude, what the flip? I'm like, yep, you're looking at a complete nerd. A nerderton. When's the next Cops? I don't know. It's probably pretty far out. What's up, Scotty? I know, we're about due for some bonus content here. Guess we'll see what we can do. You want a Pokemon card? You should get one. You're getting sick, damn. Better take your magnesium and your zinc. Boost your immune system. Mine's in my mom's attic. I gotta find. Got them all ones you named. Used to be big. Oh shit, yeah, get those, dude. Get up there and maybe you can you get them graded and you can sell them on eBay or something. When's the next gaming stream? I have no idea, honestly. It's up in the air at this point. Dude, today sucked though. Well, no, today was a good day, but it started out sucky because I had like a haircut early, and then as soon as I like walked down to like get ready to leave, a bunch of like area of my basement that has not ever had like flooding before was like flooded, and because it was raining really hard outside, and I guess like the downspout, you know, where shit should have shot out of and like diverted to an area where it wouldn't seep in and flood into the basement. It just pooled in this one area, and yeah, fucking flooded. I love that the Twitch notification works every time because for some reason YouTube's notifications don't even... Yeah, honestly, at this point, maybe that's what I use the Twitch for, just notifications for YouTube. But yeah, so I had to like, after I got my haircut, came back and had to use the shop vac and just get a bunch of the... Shop vacs are pretty sick though. What's up, Truly? How do you get your hair did? What do I tell my stylist? I say, just need a little touching up on the crown royale. That's one Pokemon that I have never actually, that I always thought was like kind of made up, but it was that Slow King, or yeah, Slow King, where it's like Slow Bro, but somehow Slow Bro evolved, like the thing ends up on his head and he becomes Slow King. I always thought that was such a weird symbiotic like evolution concept within the game. And I love whenever they like utilize certain Pokemon within the animes to have like more significance. That's kind of why I sort of have not an obsession, but I like love Dragonite. And I have like an inclination now that I've got Pokemon cards to like collect every version of Dragonite. Joe Dirt Mullet, yeah. Slowpoke to Slowbro to Slowking. I think like, I'm fairly certain Slowpoke it's like 2 options or something. Let me check real quick, honestly. How to get Slowking in Pokemon. I'm fairly certain it's like happiness or something weird like that. You need to evolve Slowpoke in a specific way. Get a Slowpoke, you can catch one in the wild in many Pokemon games. Obtain a King's Rock. That's right, this item is usually found in various locations in different games or can be held by wild Pokemon like Poliwhirl. Give the King's Rock to Slowpoke. It must hold the item before the next step. Trade Slowpoke while holding the King's Rock. This will trigger its evolution to Slowking. Oh, that's sick. Okay, so it's one of those like trading type ones to get that. That was one thing I never really got. I never got to get to like 150 or whatever in Pokemon because there was a few that I needed to trade with friends to like get, like Gengar and shit like that. Seen the new version of Slowpoke? New version Slowpoke. Why would they make a new version? Wait. Wait, what is this? Is that a Mega Slowpoke? Does he have like a full-on crown all the way up? Or wait. Oh, does its like head have some sort of change in the coloration or something? Galarian Slowpoke. What the hell is that? Sarah R. Lady with the 2 says, who models your merch? Did you pick the models? Models? Do you mean on my like merch, on the merch website? Just because, what's it called? Spreadshirt. Spreadshirt is, I don't even know if there's models on there. Is there somewhere specific, do you mean? Or like, because sometimes fans will take pictures and tag me if they buy merch and that kind of thing. Do you make your own thumbnails or do you commission someone? I usually commission Robin, but Robin has been AFK lately. So I kind of have to do some stuff myself. David with a 1. Joel, they have regional Pokemon depending on what area it's from. I know, yeah, that's a newer thing, isn't it? Ever since like the Hawaii Pokemon. You remember Pokemon Snap? Yeah, dude, those were the best days, man. I remember like getting the game, renting it, but then like getting the magazine in like a grocery store that showed you how to get you know, everything, and it was kind of amazing. It's all stock photos that they overlay your design. Yeah, that makes sense. I wouldn't, you know. Oh yeah, and what is this? It's like a slow king, but the thing like covers his head completely. I feel like that's got to be a mega evolution. Appalachia. Appalachian. Yeah, I haven't played the one on the Switch. It really didn't look that good, and everyone kind of just forgot. Your natural voice versus narrative voice is somewhat wild. Yes, it's a bit of a jump. Soon, we'll be talking like this, to gather a certain intrigue and one-on-one communication with each other. There are like 5 Pokemon games for the Switch. Yeah, the Pokemon Snap one. Wait, 5 Pokemon Snaps or just like Pokemon? But the Pokemon Snap one, I don't know. It was just kind of a letdown. I feel like all of the more recent, all the recent Pokemon games have been kind of like not so exciting. Also, thanks for being here, guys. Click that like button. Click share. Let's see if anybody's over on Twitch. We got 4 people. Kapow. Hell yeah, what's up, 4 people? Alright, friends. Let's kick this off, shall we? First off, I want to go to Forvo real quick just to see how they say Appalach. Whoops. Appalachia. How did I get Appalachian? Yeah, I don't know. All the country folk. Appalachia. What's up from Lansing, Michigan? What is good? Is that near Sasquatch himself? I hear there's a lot of sightings of Sasquatch in that region of the world. I do hope at some point in my life I get to at least see Sasquatch, even if I'm the only one and everybody thinks I'm nuts. I just want to be like, I saw it. I seen it with my own eyes. What's up, Anthony? Good to see you. Thank you. Sam Squinch. When I was 9 years old, I came home from school one day to find my mom and my grandpa sitting at the kitchen table. They'd been waiting to give me some bad news, and that bad news was that my dad was missing. He and my Uncle Lee had gone off on a weekend hunting trip and were about half a mile into the woods east of Coretta. Coretta? Make sure I say that right. Probably gonna be a lot of pronunciations. Coretta, okay. As soon as that, background video changes, you'll know that spring has officially sprung. Nothing is open late anymore. I gotta spring through the freaking store for the final hour, but it's pronounced Appalachia, yeah. I got bullied by a 6-month-old today. Nothing I did made her feel better. It was so upsetting. You got bullied by... She beat you up. She gave you a swirly. She was like 6 feet tall in a diaper. David, thank you for the toad. Joel versus Bigfoot. Who would win? I'm honestly curious. Like, if you guys saw a Bigfoot in the woods and it was running from you, or maybe even trying to avoid you, would you go after it, you know? Just to really let it know that this is your neck of the woods. Baby Huey, yeah. He and my Uncle Lee had gone off on a weekend hunting trip and were about half a mile into the woods east of Coretta when Dad realized that he'd left his grunter in his truck. And a grunter is basically just sort of a duck whistle, but it sounds like a buck's grunt, and after telling Uncle Lee to wait where he was, Dad walked back to his truck, never to be seen again. Uncle Lee said that he waited about 20 to 30 minutes before he started to get worried, and then he made his way back to the truck. But my dad was nowhere to be found, and by nightfall, Uncle Lee had every deputy from the McDowell County Sheriff's up in those hills trying to find my dad, and the search effort lasted about 2 weeks, but after failing to find a single trace of him, the county sheriff called it off. Mom kept his name on the missing persons register for a long time, while the whole family and all of his friends pitched in to hire a private investigator. The guy was a retired police officer from Charleston, a good one too, but in the end, there was only one thing that he could tell my mom and grandpa that they hadn't already heard from the county sheriff. The most likely explanation was that, for some reason, Dad had walked through the woods until he came to a series of old mining pits near a town called Cucumber. And then, as their theory goes, Dad walked into one of those mines, fell down a shaft, and his body had been laying in the bottom ever since. Yet during that initial search and rescue attempt, every mine shaft that could be safely explored had been mapped out by a team of caving specialists, and the tunnels that weren't safe had teams of cadaver dogs handling dispatch. Team of cadaver dog handlers. Oh, dog handlers. Don't drop it on lives very often, but I wanted to say that you're the absolute best narrator, and I fall asleep to your videos every night. Thank you, Eric. Good to see you, dude. My toddler was a baby. I called him the screaming potato or the sleeping potato. There was no in between. Do you guys hunt? Does anybody here hunt at all? Or go hunting? Go hunt in the night? Rafaela, yeah, good to see you. Where you been? You did growing up, but not recently. Interesting. You grew up hunting. That's cool. What did you hunt? Deer, bear, turkey mainly. Nice. Do you do archery? I always think it would be fun to do archery. It just feels like it's the most connected to your old, primal self. You really got to dial in before you, release your quiver. Hunting beer cans in the desert. Yeah, that sounds fun. I love archery much more than rifle. Yeah, it seems like just you got that one shot, you cannot miss. Rock hunting and plant propagating is what I do now. I grew up in the Adirondacks. We were hunting and eating deer and the occasional random whatever. That's cool. You hunt deals, yeah. It's the first time catching one of your lives. Love your videos. Thank you, Photo. Good to see you. Yeah, we're just recording, just kind of BSing. Give me something to do while I make videos. Your dad is one of the top designers in the country. For what? Crossbows? In the tunnels that weren't safe, had teams of cadaver dog handlers dispatched to them. Dad's body wasn't found in any of them, though. That didn't mean that it wasn't there. The sheriff couldn't rule that out entirely, but there was something that he neglected to mention that Mom later found from the PI that she hired. There was graffiti in one of the mine shafts. The private investigator said he didn't recognize any of the symbols or words, but they'd been crudely daubed in a sort of spray paint about midway through one of the tunnels, so he could only assume that the place was a hangout for local teens. And that's what led him to believe that kids who'd tagged those tunnels might also know what happened to my dad. And despite his best efforts, he couldn't locate any of them. Uncle Lee tried to help as best he could and kept in close contact with the private investigator, but he took Dad's disappearance harder than anyone. Everyone kept telling him that it wasn't his fault, that there was no way that he could have known, and that he did all the right things. But he was never quite the same after Dad disappeared, and no one could blame him. I didn't get the full story of what had happened until I was much older, but between the day he went missing and the day Mom had him declared legally deceased, there was a lot of hope and a lot of heartbreak. Having my sister and I asking, "Where is Daddy?" Having my sister and I asking when is Daddy coming home almost drove Mom crazy with grief. But as we got older and we accepted that he was never coming back, it got more and more easy to deal with until it just kind of faded into the background. Dad's disappearance was behind us, but it was still there. It was always there, really. And by the time I was 22, my sister had moved over to Morgantown from college. I paint rocks and I go hide them. People goes and find them. We call them kindness painting rocks. That sounds fun, honestly. Put it out there and... Best YouTuber ever, I swear to God. Thank you. Very kind. Very kind. Compound bow designers. His name is Kevin Strother. That's sick. Does he ever try to make any, like, I guess, like, more natural bows? In the sense of, like, just finding a stick out in the woods and some string and making it happen. Lindsay with a 5 says, hello from Shreve, Ohio. Hello, hello. Widowy, Ohio. Widowy, Ohio. Thank you, Lindsay. By the time I was 22, my sister had moved over to Morganton from... I keep saying from. Do I ever miss nursing? Nah, dude. No. I'm very blessed to be where I am now, and even if this somehow were to not work out, I could never see myself going back. I think once you realize that you can make money making entertainment, you know what I mean? It's kind of like a drug, I guess, you know? Even if you run out of all of the other drug, you're like, well, I guess I'll just go find drugs somewhere else. You ever heard about the cult run by Osho in Oregon that took over multiple towns? No, dude. What's that all about? Are they Mormons? We do the hide rock, find a rock, so you find one, you put it in a different place, and then hopefully someone else puts it somewhere and takes pics before hiding. Oh, that's fun. Was nursing as excitable as Grey's Anatomy? It was more exciting. There'd be nights where a helicopter, like a life flight, would crash into a patient's room almost every night, just taking out entire wings. It was rough, but you know, it's for content, so. If you need out, I promise you can come and I'll support you. I don't even mind. One short story each evening, just 5 minutes or less. That's all you need. You can just keep me in the closet. Makes sense. That's why people do ridiculous for viewership to get money, so it's worth for some people. What you do is perfect. I know. I'm very fortunate to be in something that like I can just keep doing till I'm old, I guess, and it will. You know what I mean? Because if I'm like a true crime like narrator guy when I'm 65, it's not gonna be like you're gonna be like, yeah, fucking sick. I love that shit, you know. But if I was, I'm already old. That's true. If I was, you know, doing pranks or, you know, maybe even like Let's Plays, probably Let's Plays guaranteed, like until 65, it just, you know, just wouldn't work. Any first responder videos on the horizon? I'm gonna have to look into that. And the older you get, the older man chat. Yeah, exactly. The voice just gets better with time, hopefully. Morgan Freeman. Have some of your friends and their kids paint rocks in distinct ways, take pictures of all of them and hide them in your town, start a new trend. That would be fun. I could imagine like you could do that through like a Facebook group or something. Like you put in the Facebook group like, this is the rock I'm hiding. If you find it, you're now my pen pal or some shit. You get one kiss. You have a whole wing. If you don't, I don't mind. I got a basement recording studio. Bands could come occasionally. Only cool bands. That's true. David, thank you for the gifter too. Kimberly Robinson, welcome Kimberly. Thank you, David. I'm 35. I'm not 35 yet. I'll be 35 in June. But you know what? Same shit, right? As soon as one of your like close friends turns a certain age, you're pretty much already that age then. I don't know. I guess there's really no reason to fight it. I feel fine, honestly. I just need to get better at calorie counting. I'm thinking of making a fitness channel, but don't know which route to take, like how to start. Yeah, because there's so many different ways, like, and the fitness, like, content creator space is so toxic, you know what I mean? Like, you look at, like, Greg Doo-Doo shit. I'm just kidding. But you look at them, and it's, like, it's just innately this, like, drama. You know, even, like, Mike Israetel, who's usually, like, very scientifically oriented towards thing, like, everybody's on roids, right? They're all on roids, so their emotions are just like through the roof, and they're just like gearing and ready to like slaughter people. So I just imagine it just draws more and more people towards conflict. I mean, even the stuff with who's like the short nerdy one who like talks about like the most scientifically effective way to get a lat pull down stretch, and he's Canadian. I like him. Man, I like all of them. They're all great. But yeah, you could go so many different ways. Yeah, Jeff Nipples. Like even him, he got like in the fight with that dude who like pushed him in the neck and stuff. Now, granted, it wasn't that big a deal. It's like the least exciting confrontation at like a bar every night kind of situation. But on YouTube, I mean, two YouTubers beefing is one thing, but two YouTubers actually placing hands even near each other is like shit your pants. End of the world. But yeah, anyways, like related to the fitness realm, it's just so toxic, and you can do the I'm the strongest guy in the world thing, but that only goes so long. So it's like, how do you maintain it? I have no clue, honestly. Like, you kind of have to hope that you become like a lean beef patty type character where it's like you're attractive, and then you can like also have a personality that carries your like vlogs, you know what I mean, but then you also have to have like an interesting social media presence. You got to have a bunch of like viral little videos that like keep people's attention. It's a busy life, it seems like. You can't just be a loser like me and sit in your basement that's flooding and still, like, I could be literally up to water to my neck right now and still probably effectively do my job. Wart. I speak first Aramaic. This is true. Do I have a nice house? I mean, it's whatever. You know what I mean? I like it. It's enough for me. I've never been really one to covet items, I suppose, too much. Like when it comes to like cars or fashion, or like I'm not much of a peacocker. Like, I actually feel like if I wore like a gold chain and grills, you know, I'd be like borderline embarrassed. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't want anybody to look at me at all or look at me differently. Smells of leather-bound books. You peacocking, bro? I'm going to do is record daily videos of my workout and meals I make. For me, it's more of a fitness journey. I'd like to inspire people. Yeah, see, I mean, that'd be fine too, because you got, what's his name? Who's the guy that's like lat day 460? Sam Sulek. I even did a silly little intro with his for mine, but yeah, you know, who knows? You know what I mean? Like, if you have good insights, like obviously like Sam's use of Trenbolone and Deca and all that other shit, like obviously advanced his physique, you know, plus 200 pounds or whatever, which I hope you never feel inclined to use like, you know, performance enhancing drugs or anything like that, because they do notably shorten your existence. There was a guy that, you know, he was a pretty generic, like, older gentleman who was like in his later 40s. I think he was 49, but he had some crossover with like the golden era of bodybuilding. Not necessarily, but I guess the golden era of the 90s, you know. Even though I guess the golden era is the 70s or whatever, but like he was within that realm. And yeah, I don't know, he had all these good videos. He looked healthy. He was only like 49, jacked as shit, obviously on steroids, but then he just died. He just had a heart attack and died. And maybe he didn't do a good job like keeping track of his blood levels and didn't give blood, and you know, maybe his hematocrit got too high and he had a stroke or some shit, or who knows what the fuck happened. But Starbucks or Starburst, I like Starbucks. Sam is actually a good person in the fit community, even though He's on gear. He never advocates using it, though. Yeah, no, for sure. And I like Sam a lot. He's very chill for, his emotions do not seem high at all for someone that's on that much shit, which is impressive. But, at the same time, you have to ask yourself, like, would he be as physically interesting to the naked eye without the use of PEDs? Maybe. I know he had a decent physique before that, but it's just one of those things where when you are a complete freak beast, to look at, it keeps people's attention and makes them want to, like, watch you throw around 315 pounds, you know what I mean? Don't ever do it, and plus you're doing it for you. You gotta go even if you do a little. It doesn't matter what the other people are lifting or what they look like. You're doing it for you. It's true. Yeah, but we get so caught up in I have to be absolutely shredded. I have to be giant and jacked at the same time. I gotta be a monster with my lifts. But it's just like the second you start, you know what? I'm actually, let's see. Negative side effects of we'll go simple. Starting TRT, which is testosterone, for people that are doing it. So it's like, all right, negative effects, we got your balls shrink, infertility, man boobs, acne and oily skin, which I don't know if you've ever seen those people who, like, even in the areas where they, like, inject their steroids, they sometimes form cysts in the injection area because it's usually intramuscular, so like in your thigh, on the side of your thigh, and like you'll have fucking these huge cysts that form that are like filled with pus and blood. And then if you, like, I've heard people like touch them and they cut them open to relieve pressure at the hospital, and the fucking cyst like explodes across the room. Obviously there's relief there, but it's very painful. But it's kind of just like, do you want that? Obviously if you're a dude, you could have male pattern baldness, and then the cardiovascular risks of increased red blood cell count. It can thicken the blood, increasing risk of blood clots, stroke, and heart attack, elevated blood pressure, potential for heart disease, mood swings and aggression, roid rage. Dude, that's the number one that everybody says is like the absolute worst, is that your mood is just like so insane, and then you have increased anxiety and depression. And I've known this one guy at my gym who he would actually try to like sell me TRT. I did not want it, but dude, he was like the most dramatic man I'd ever known, where it was just like he would get in fights with like his clients. Like he would work people out at the gym and he'd get in fights with his own clients, like arguing with them because they were like women that he would work out, but then also somehow go out and have sex with them. I don't know why. It was just stupid to do because it's, but then he would get in like dramatic fights with, it was so stupid. And he was just nuts. Water retention and bloating, liver strain, increased risk of sleep apnea, which is also terrible. You're snoring, and that affects like your oxygen levels and your sleep quality, all that kind of stuff. Then your shutdown of natural testosterone production. So like you're essentially going to have to be on some dose of TRT for the rest of your life. High estrogen levels, which converts to estrogen, leading to symptoms like mood swings, water retention. And I think the worst would be like getting like man boobs, even if they're like, just like swollen nipples or some shit, you know what I mean? If you were a dude and you worked so hard to get all this like big muscle and whatever, and then all of a sudden now you have man boobs. I know they have surgeries for it and shit, but it's like, dude, fuck all that stuff. I hung out with a dude who make roids in his bathtub. Like he literally would clean it out, make a huge batch, and sell the vials. He would test it all the time. I was super paranoid. Ugh, yeah, that sounds like just an absolute stressful life. And this is TRT, so if you take it reasonably, it could help. But these guys take the stuff and they take levels that are almost like the steroid levels, and that's with damage. Yeah, exactly. Can you imagine like if it's issues with TRT? And then you try to take all of the synthetic testosterone, like Deca and what's the other one, Trembolone and all that kind of stuff. Like, you don't do it. Just go to the gym, work out, count your calories. Fuck all that shit, man. By the time I was 22, my sister had moved over to Morgantown for college, and I was working full-time at a fixin' shop in Welsh, and I hadn't seen Uncle Lee in maybe 4 or 5 years by that point. He sent us birthday and holiday messages and would occasionally call Mom around the anniversary of Dad's disappearance, but other than that, he kept himself very distant. At least until the day when Mom said that he'd called and had asked to talk to me. I was more than happy to see him for the first time in years, and I understood why Uncle Lee had kept his distance. He once told my mom that I reminded him of a younger version of my dad, and while some of those memories brought him a lot of joy, they brought him a lot of pain too. And because of that, I thought I wouldn't see much of Uncle Lee anymore, and that brought me quite a bit of pain as well. And so you can imagine how happy I was when I'd heard that he wanted to meet up. I drove over to his place out near Filbert one Saturday around midday, and what followed was what I can only describe as a two-person family reunion. We were both happy to see each other, and after spending all morning worrying that he'd been... Don't they get withdrawals and get fat again? Yeah, if they get off of it, like your mood completely tanks out and you will lose a lot of what you worked on as well. A lot of the time the people with pronounced side effects do something called cruising on a cycle where they take it the whole year without breaks. Yeah. I don't know, man. It's just something that I really wouldn't want to be thinking about without having a doctor hyper monitor everything about me. Some people can't help themselves, just like anything else, turn into a... Yeah, that's true too. I mean, steroid addiction is a thing. I mean, Larry Wheels has talked about it with his stuff, and I don't know. Who knows? We were both happy to see each other, and after spending all morning worrying that he'd be some depressive alcoholic, it was a huge relief to see him very clear-eyed and on his feet. As we caught up, we shared some cold cuts and chow, along with a cold beer, and the conversation sort of meandered around the subject of my dad until there was no avoiding him anymore. We talked about this and that, things he used to do and how much we missed him, and then out of nowhere, Uncle Lee had a proposal for me. He asked if I wanted to visit the... You want to go see your dad's body? You're really scared of hardcore drugs? You should be, honestly. I mean, I know good people. Family members of mine, and I know friends who have family members who had good, you know what I mean? They had good lives. And then they get on shit, and it's just they become different people. And I mean, I sit there and I think about how hard it is for me to avoid sweets, you know? I'll sit there and say I'm giving up processed sugars, and then you go and eat an entire chicken bacon rancher from Jersey Mike's, and you're like, oh my god, give me some you know. And obviously it's not the same thing, but if I have literally no discipline pertaining to that, or any other form of discipline that I tell myself I should have, I can only imagine what it'd be like the first time I try pain pills, and which leads to fucking heroin, which leads to meth, which leads to death, and et cetera, et cetera. And it's just sometimes, I mean, I do respect anybody that can fucking just cut that shit out, but it's, sometimes there's no turning back. When you were a kid, your brother sold my Barbie Jeep to buy crack, right? Yeah, exactly. And I'm so sorry to hear that. It's just one of those things where it's nothing surprises me anymore. I mean, the addiction, it just becomes a demon that you cannot fight. It is weird too. A friend of mine was talking about just the affordability of drugs. I mean, the fact that heroin, dosages is only $10 a shot is just... What we need to do is we need to make drugs expensive again. Make it expensive. No one can even afford it. No one's going to even try it. How's your family member who's struggling with drug addiction doing? Not good. Not good. I feel bad because, like, even though I pray that it's not the case, like, there's a part of me that has kind of resigned a little bit of sort of, like, if you can think of, like, different timelines for your future sometimes on what is probably going to occur. Like, I've already pretty much, like, I've already pretty much grieved him, if that makes sense. Like, I've already grieved their death. I've already grieved their, you know, at their hypothetical funeral. You know what I mean? Because it's just like, yeah. That's what Larry Wheels is known for, his power and strength. That's how you make the money. So I don't know what he's going to do when he gets 40 and over, if he even lives that long, God forbid. Right. Yeah, exactly. That's one of the tempting aspects of, like, the fitness community too, is like imagine if as I got older, my voice got, like, worse or weak. I talk like this and I got, you know, which I guess eventually it might be like that. But I would be motivated to take voice enhancing drugs if it meant that I got to keep my cushy job on YouTube. You know what I mean? I should insure my voice, yeah. I do that by spritzing a little bit of honey in the back of the throat, mixed with jizz. You've lost a few people to addiction, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. And it sucks too, because it's like, people that are on, like, really hardcore drugs are so fucking annoying. They're the most annoying people you've ever met in your life. Like, they were your friend at one point, you know, they were good, but they're just so annoying. Like, they steal from you, they want things from you, they, like, are rude to you, or they sit there and act like you're the bad guy, and it's like, bro, everything that you've said and do all the fucking time is so bad. How do you not see that you're the bad guy? I'm not bad. You're the one in rehab. You know what I mean? Like, what did I do? But at the same time, it's like, how do you know, you just, it's so annoying that you kind of just, like, as a defense mechanism for your own personal safety or your own personal sanity, is to just, like, fucking let them go, you know? Yeah, it's almost like a good thing for them to end up in jail, because then at least there they can't, hopefully, not get a hold of shit. Honestly, I've listened to your podcast for years, specifically while walking and lifting. Thanks, bro. You're welcome, Scotty. I'm glad you're staying healthy, and I hope you do it for the rest of your life. Forever. I'm lucky that I struggle with alcohol, because at least that's cheap. But I have a lot of friends try to rob my family's house. Yeah, friends, exactly, yeah, like, and then that falls on you, you know? You're like, your fucking friends are here. Fuck, I'm dead. I was addicted to heroin for almost 10 years and clean out since 2020. I've started my channel a week ago, and that's why I speak about there. The world needs more awareness and education. Yeah, I'm very happy for you that you've broken free. And hopefully you can share, like, how you've done it, because it might literally just come down to, like, life hacks, you know what I mean? Like, tricking your body through this form of discipline or process to, like, finally break free of a cycle, whatever that cycle is. AA saved your life. Yeah, I don't know. I hope so, man. It's like, you can only give them so many opportunities, but they need to do it themselves. It's just like, what else can you do? He asked if I wanted to visit the site of my dad's disappearance, suggesting that it might provide a degree of closure. He said that he'd been up in those hills east of Coretta about half a dozen times, and even though he'd never found so much as a trace of my dad, it helped alleviate the feeling of uselessness that had plagued him ever since. And at first it didn't sound like such a hot idea. I could appreciate why walking those hills helped Uncle Lee deal with the pain and loss, but to me, meandering around that area my dad vanished from sounded like slow torture. I was just happy to be in touch with my uncle again, someone I could actually build a relationship with, because after my grandpa died, he was the only paternal figure that I had God damn it, why is my voice squeaking? Shit. I had throat spray. Throat spray. Oh, here it is. Freaking sweet. Both of your parents died of alcohol. I'm so sorry. My buddy's brother recently passed away from presumably complications related to alcoholism. He was very young, literally only like a few years older than me. I don't know the specifics, but it just fucking sucks, man. Everybody dies. And just dying of the stupidest shit, too, you know? I don't know. And it just makes you wonder, like, how does it all begin? Like, where does it all begin? Like, someone's just trying to forget a bad life. Someone's just trying to have a good time. Someone's just trying to, you know, and then, but then that trying to forget or trying to have a good time slowly just builds up over the course of many years of disassociation, and then eventually you just find that your body is completely reliant upon it. Rook, what's up, dude? I'd been visiting Uncle Lee every couple of weeks between the time that we first got lunch and the day that I suggested we drive up into the hills east of Coretta and then hike out to the place that I last saw my dad. He was happy to hear that I'd changed my mind, but it was very muted, is all I can think to say. Kind of like he didn't want to show the emotion of how much it meant to him because he was worried that it'd scare me off. He didn't ask what had changed my mind, but if he had, I'd have told him that it came down to something as simple as this. If I started feeling too emotional, negatively emotional I mean, we could always just turn around, walk back to my truck and drive home. Nothing was keeping me there, and if walking those woods didn't provide any good feeling, at least I'd be able to say that I tried. Uncle Lee and I arranged... Also, I feel like did I skip a fucking sentence? Another... What? I feel like yeah, I gotta go back a whole last paragraph here. It's confusing. I could appreciate why walking those hills might be painless, but to me, oh yeah. I could appreciate why walking those hills helped Uncle Lee deal with the pain and loss, but to me, meandering around the area my dad vanished from sounded like slow torture. I was just happy to be in touch with my uncle again, someone I could actually build a relationship with, because after my grandpa died, he was the only paternal figure I had left. Focusing on my dad like that, in a negative way I mean, I couldn't see the benefit. Yet slowly but surely, over the course of about a year or so, I came around to the idea that this might provide some much-needed closure. I'd been visiting Uncle Lee every couple of weeks between the time we first got in touch and the day that I suggested that we drive up into the hills east of Coretta and then hike out to the place that he last saw my dad. He was happy to hear that I'd changed my mind, but it was very muted, for lack of a better word. Kind of like he didn't want to show the emotion of how much it meant to him because he was worried that it'd scare me off. He didn't ask what had changed my mind, but if he did, I'd have told him that it came down to something as simple as this. If I started feeling too emotional, negatively emotional I mean, we could always just turn around, walk back to my truck and drive home. Nothing was keeping me there, and if walking those woods didn't provide any good feeling, at least I'd be able to say that I tried. Uncle Lee and I arranged to drive down to Coretta together on a Saturday morning in early May. To my relief, we'd somewhat shifted the focus away from my dad's disappearance and began treating it like a regular old hike through the woods. We'd uphold our long-standing tradition and take along a few beers and some cold cuts, and then if at any point I felt like talking about him or asking questions about my father, then we could cross that bridge once we came to it. I'll admit to feeling a little bit anxious as we drove along. I'll admit that I was... Yeah, I'm happy that you guys can break free of those cycles, honestly. I mean, it really does come down to you. And you made that decision, you know? You lost your sister to weed, completely different person, a stranger now. I don't talk about it as I tend to get dogpiled on since weed is legal, pretty controversial. No, I mean, I've had a lot of friends say that people's personalities and whatnot and what they prioritize and what they focus on definitively does change when they kind of get into the habit of consistently smoking marijuana. And I know that sounds silly, but people can change, you know. I mean, your mind is in a constant altered state to a degree, even if it's not clearly as negative as something like pills or meth or whatever. And yeah, it can have different effects on the different people. It can have, you know, different strains and all that kind of stuff. But if you do feel like it affected your relationship with them, I mean, that is something that it's affected. It's a perception that you felt, and, you know, people can't necessarily negate that, but it's obviously important to communicate. Weed helped me break away from other things, different effects, and that's true too. Oh, that's good. Hey, Judalon, what's up, dude? How's we doing? I'll admit to a feeling. What the frick? I'll admit to feeling a little anxious as we drove along the creek and got closer to the back road that we were good to park. God damn it, why is this hard? I'll admit to feeling a little anxious as I'll admit to feeling a little anxious as we drove alongside the creek and got closer to the back road we were good to park my truck on. But by the time we got to walking and talking, I realized that patch of woods was no different than any other in West Virginia. I'd always considered that area around Coretta to be haunted. Not literally, of course, but it meant as well... Not literally, of course, but it might as well have been like the ghost of my dad was wandering those hills. That sounded so fucking weird. Why is it? But it might as well have been like the ghost of my... Okay. Fucking hell. Alcohol withdrawal is the only one you can physically die from. I did hear that you can physically die from the withdrawals of heroin as well. And also Overwatch. I almost died from that one, but I made it through the other side. Dude, I played Overwatch the other day. I smoked crack the other day, and it was so bad. Like, they totally lied to us. They were like, oh, we're coming back with 6v6, it's gonna be sick. And then 6v6 is not there. It's coming in the mid-season. And the skill tree bullshit makes, like, no sense. Whatever the fuck. Oh, God. Like, because the game is all about switching, and even more so with the tanks, because the tanks have to play like two roles. They have to like hold down the front line and like peel to help someone getting dove. The whole game is so shit, like just shit design, and you end up losing your skill tree perk because you switch characters, and I don't know, maybe you gain it back faster or something when you switch. I did fall for the trap. It really was. I mean, and that it was the absolute biggest fumble. It's so funny that it took Marvel Rivals coming out for them to like make any changes to their game, and it seemed like they did it in the span of like a couple months or some shit. I know. I promised I'd never play again, but I have friends that keep trying to pull me back in. Enablers, really. They live in a gamer house, the Overwatch house. aka Crack House. And they invite me over for sleepovers. They say just one shoot up. Come on, dude. Hey, Matthew, thank you. Hope your night shift goes well. I don't know. Anyways, we'll see how the game fares. We'll see if Crack gets better at the mid-season patch. That'd be so funny. That'd be so funny to find out that, like, Crack, you know, just like whatever the fuck crack is, you know, or like various drugs, heroin, all that kind of stuff. I guess it technically does get like patch updates, because you have like pain pills and they get like patch updates from like pharmaceutical companies. Like, that's just going to be so funny that a bunch of like scientists are just like hanging out all day and they're like, how can we chemically alter this already addictive drug to be even more addictive and destructive to the entire citizenry? Ah, there we are. Play Overwatch on your B-day was 8 shots down. Bro, you would just, the audio would just cut out because I have just taken like a baseball bat to my computer. Yeah, fentanyl was the patch, yeah, for sure. And it's funny because they actually have fentanyl patches. I remember giving those out in nursing. That was like before I even realized like how strong fent was. CIA has pushed a lot of these drugs on kids. Yeah, you know, I wouldn't be surprised, man. I don't know why do they always do bad stuff? Can they just do nice stuff to like us? Do bad stuff to other people. Do nice stuff to us. Give us the good. Give everyone else the bad. New rule. Get that tattooed on every CIA agent's lower back. Do good, no bad. Thanks for your work. You're welcome. You're welcome. I took over 50 smoke breaks a shift. You're welcome. Just kidding. But while you were writhing in pain in your room, away from your family, isolated in a patient gown, completely vulnerable, I was ignoring your bell while shitting out diarrhea from like pizza soup that the chef made that earlier that night. So those were my usual priorities. I'd always considered that area around Coretta to be haunted. Not literally, of course, but it might as well have been, like the ghost of my dad was wandering. God damn it. I'd always considered that area around Coretta to be haunted. Not literally, of course, but it might as well have been like the... Dude, why does this sound weird? But it might as well have been like the... Okay, that's like one sentence together. For some reason, it's... I'd always considered that area around Coretta to be haunted. Not literally, of course, but it might as well have been like the ghost of my dad was wandering those hills. I never wanted to go there as long as I lived, so to suddenly be there one day and realizing it was mostly all in my head, it was definitely good for me. But the word mostly is kind of carrying a lot of the weight in that sentence. And as much as it felt regular as anything to be walking through those woods with my Uncle Lee, it was like there was still a piece of my dad out there, hiding away someplace. Call it a memory, call it hope, but there was something, and I could feel it. And we kept on walking and talking till we got to Big Creek, and then, after making ourselves comfortable on a flat rock at the edge of the creek, we had ourselves a little break. And I figured that marked the halfway point of our hike, so when we were done, I suggested that we head back towards my truck. But Uncle Lee had another idea. He said that there was something he wanted to show me. And then after another mile or so of walking, we came to a rocky outcropping which overlooked the abandoned mines that I told you about earlier. I asked him if that was the place the private investigator had checked out all those years before, and Uncle Lee said it was. And then after a sigh, he said that there was something he'd never told me and my mom. He told the sheriff all right, and he told the PI too. He just never had the heart to tell me or Mom that the last time he'd seen my dad had been when he was walking in to one of those mine shafts. So between noticing my dad was missing and informing the authorities, Uncle Lee said that he'd run all over the woods calling out Dad's name and trying to find him before the situation got serious. Uncle Lee said that he never so... There's goon in them there hills. We're gooning out there. Valley Heart, what's up, dude? Do a poll, pizza or burgers? What about burger pizza? Okay. If you're trying to relieve pain, if you mix 500 milligrams of Tylenol and 400 milligrams of ibuprofen, the nerve pain will subside. Oh man. I'd be careful with that too, because that shit wrecks your liver. Uncle Lee said that he was never much of a tracker. He simply got lucky in heading in the right direction. He didn't think my dad had walked in the direction of those mines, but when he stood in that exact same spot that we were stood in, he saw a distant figure dressed exactly like my dad walking into one of the dark, derelict tunnels. Uncle Lee said that he scrambled down the steep incline of the outcrop and then ran off in the direction of the mine shaft that he'd seen my dad walk into. But when he got there and walked inside with his flashlight in hand, there was no one there. When I asked Uncle Lee if he'd seen the same weird graffiti as the PI did, he said no, but that there was something about that old mine shaft that made him feel very uneasy. According to Uncle Lee, that's what had truly been haunting him for all these years. The idea that he'd seen his brother walk into a dark tunnel, then, upon hearing his name being called, had chosen to hide in the dark, pretending not to hear. And to him, that was the best case scenario. The worst case was that something had happened to him in that old mine, something terrible that he meant he couldn't walk or talk and... Wait, what happened? When did someone call out his name? The idea that he'd seen his brother walk into a dark tunnel, then upon hearing his name being called... Oh, the brother chose. Okay, he yelled out for him. Did he say that, though? Uncle Lee had scrambled down the... ran off in the direction of the mine shaft and seen his dad walk into it. Wait, okay. He didn't think in the direction of the mines where he stood, the exact spot he saw. He saw a distant figure exactly my dad went to... Oh, okay. I just wasn't... Was there at any point that he called out to the brother or the brother called out to him? Sorry, it's just like very confusing when there's like a detail that's like skipped. Is this an AI story? I don't think so. People ask that, but I don't really even know how you would like be able to identify if a story is AI per se. Like if there's like way too many uses of like adjectives, sometimes that is indicative of like AI, in my opinion. Just like when it tries like way too fucking hard using like flowery language. That's something I've seen AI do whenever like we've tried to create stories here. But this seems pretty like straightforward, honestly. Jensen, ChatGPT, make a horror story and don't use many adjectives. I was very, very scared. AI adds so many generic details. I don't know. To like be able to like forensically determine what is or is not AI writing would be hard. It'd be a hard one to ascertain. The idea that he'd seen his brother walk into a dark tunnel then upon hearing his name being called had chosen to hide in the dark, pretending not to hear. And to him, that was the best case scenario. The worst case was that something had happened to him in that old mine, something terrible that meant that he couldn't walk or talk anymore, even if he wanted to. I understood why such information had been withheld from me. The situation was bad enough without piling more unsettling mystery on top of it, but still, I told Man, that whole fucking, last paragraph is really confusing. This is all, something that's, seems to have happened to or it's, has occurred without, saying it occurred prior. According to Uncle Lee, that's what has been truly haunting for him all those years, the idea that he'd seen his brother walk into a dark tunnel, then upon hearing his name, but it's acting like it's recanting what had just happened, but it never said any of that happened, you know? I don't fucking know. I mean, I guess you can figure it out later, but it's just weird. Your friend just started hiking the Appalachian mountains. Montans. Creepy Fox, OG Scary Storytellers. Yeah, I haven't seen Creepy Fox and Creepy Fooks. I actually want to look up their channel. It's been forever. Creepy Fox. So we got 8 scary Florida horror stories with a picture of Michael Jackson. Damn. That's crazy. Yeah, 5 years ago views were popping, but that just shows you the power. Guys, if you ever do YouTube, be careful. Because the second that you stop posting videos is whenever your whole algorithm just falls off a freaking cliff. Intentionally confusing story, yeah. Just convince me I'm schizophrenic by the end of it. What if I did a whole video where I was typing and talking? What would actually be a good ASMR video for bonus content? Typing on my keyboard, but then would I also have to read what I'm typing? I don't even know. I understood why such information had been withheld from me. The situation was bad enough, without piling more unsettling mystery on top of it. But still, I told Uncle Lee that I was glad that he'd shared the whole truth with me, even if it was as disturbing as it was painful. And I figured after that it was time to leave, but Uncle Lee had another proposal for me, and one that I found impossible to turn down. He asked if I wanted to walk down to the mine with him, as it was something he himself did every so often as part of his attempt to exercise that area of the hills. And by that point, I couldn't think of a reason why we shouldn't. We'd already walked all that way, and I had no idea if or when I'd return. And so not heading down to that mine seemed like it'd be a wasted opportunity, and if it worked for Lee in dispelling some of the heartache, then it might just work for me too. And so I agreed, and off we went. Heading down the steep face of the outcrop was definitely not a smart move, so we walked around the edge of the mining pit a little bit to find a safer way down. At the bottom, all kinds of warning signs had been hammered into the dirt telling people to keep out, and that they'd be seriously injured if they tried exploring any of the old tunnels. I asked Uncle Lee if he thought that my dad had fallen down a mine shaft or had been the victim of a freak cave-in that had left him unable to respond to his cries. He didn't know for certain, but if that was the case, Dad's body would have been found a long time ago. Whatever happened to him, it happened in that old mine. It just hadn't been properly explained yet. As we got closer and closer to the mine's entrance, which appeared as a jagged scar in the rock, it was like the air itself grew heavier. Very little light was making its way down the tunnel, but I remember seeing splintered wooden beams jutting out at odd angles like broken teeth in the mouth of some great serpent. Neither myself nor Uncle Lee said a word as we approached the entrance, and the place so... Do a kidnapping roleplay ASMR. We can't roleplay it, we have to make it actually happen. What's up, Murphy? My one buddy has a boxer dog named Murphy. He's pretty cool. So I will assume that he's figured out how to use a keyboard. Neither myself nor Uncle Lee said a word as we approached the entrance, and the place was so quiet that the sound of our boots crunching into the gravel and slate seemed unnaturally loud. I started to see things like discarded tools, a cracked lantern, a coil of frayed rope half buried in the dirt. Things which suggested that the mine had been abandoned. God damn it, I don't know why I'm struggling to fucking find the flow. Things which suggested that the mine had been abandoned in a hurry rather than an organized or phased one. Fuck. Hold on, I gotta take this coat off, bro. Things which suggested that the mine had been abandoned in a hurry rather than in I don't know why that's so fucking hard to do. Rather than in an organized, like so many vowels in a row that flow together. It's just so annoying. Is it still cold in PA? It was like 50s today, but just because it was so rainy and humid. But I imagine it's, it's just a transitionary period again to spring. Kind of like it transitions in fall to winter. There's always just like sort of a warm day, then all of a sudden it's very cold, and it just goes back and forth till eventually it's always cold. And that's how it's going to be here, where it just goes back and forth. We're probably going to get like snow and wintry mixes here and there until eventually it's just like consistently 60s. Mega, thank you for the 10 says, good night, moon, good night, stars, good night, chat. Oh god, he's stripping, I just died. Thank you, Mega, good to see you. Take care. It's hot as fuck. Wait, where are you at? That it's that hot already? Oh, I heard that they're in Arizona, which is where I'd imagine it's probably hot. It's, I heard there was like a dust storm in Arizona. Is that true? And is that like a thing? Like a common thing? Things which suggested the mine had been abandoned in a hurry rather than in an organized or phased fashion. I asked Uncle Lee if he knew why the place had been abandoned in the first place, and he said that he'd heard rumors of flooding, but didn't know for certain if they were true or not. The official explanation was that the company had simply gone out of business. But if that was true, why did the place look like it had been abandoned so hastily? And as we got within just a few feet of the mine's entrance, it was like the temperature dropped by a few degrees, and the darkness in front of me seemed to swallow up all the outside light after just a few feet. I figured Uncle Lee could sense my apprehension, because he started telling me how I didn't have to go inside if I didn't want to. All I had to do was say the word and we could just leave. But like I said, there was no way I was going to just turn around and go home, not after we'd walked all that way. And so, slowly but surely, I started walking toward the entrance and the rusted cage bars of the open gate beyond. I can recall the oddest things from the first few moments. I remember how it got even colder as I stepped into the shaft, and how the air had both a smell and taste to it too. Just dust, metal, and mold all rolled into one. The light from outside disappeared quickly, but luckily, I had a tiny flashlight that I kept attached to my keyring, and so after sort of fumbling with it to free it from the ring, I held down the small button and suddenly I could see again. I say I could see again, but not by much. The light from the little keyring attachment was only enough to keep a few feet of darkness at bay, so My pace stayed slow as I tread deeper into the tunnel. I took a few steps and then stopped, then, after taking a few more, I turned around to check if Uncle Lee was following me. But when I did, I saw something that made my blood turn to ice. Uncle Lee was standing near the cage gate, almost like a total silhouette by then, but there was just enough light for me to see that he held something in his hand. It was something that I knew that he had with him, but something he had no reason to produce in that moment. It was a gun, and the hand that he held it in was shaking. In the microseconds that followed me spotting the gun in his hand, part of me screamed out to reason with him, and there was a brief glimmer of hope when the thought occurred to me that he'd produced that pistol for our own safety. But the way it trembled in his hand, the way he didn't say a single goddamn thing as I turned back to look at him, I got this feeling, sharp as a blade, that I wasn't safe at all. And so I ran. I ran down that tunnel with my tiny, crappy flashlight as the first of Lee's gunshots rang out. The crack split the air behind me, and the bang felt like it exploded my eardrums as I felt the bullet fly past me all in the same moment, and my adrenaline surged as I realized, to not make myself an easy target, I had to turn my flashlight off. Then as I eased my thumb off that button, I was just plunged into darkness. I'd never been so scared in my entire life. I didn't know it was even possible to feel that level of terror. The only light came from Uncle Lee's shots as my lungs burned and my muscles began to scream, and any second I expected to either take a bullet or slam into a complete wall. As it turned out, I was headed for a wall, and the only thing that alerted me was seeing one of Lee's bullets ricochet off something metallic. I flicked on my flashlight for a second and saw the tunnel diverting into 3 different directions, and I picked a path in a split second and then kept running. And only then I was out of Lee's sight that I could switch that little flashlight back on and start looking for a place to hide. As I ran into the diverting tunnel, the weak glow of the flashlight in my hand started to bounce off the much narrower walls, and I suddenly realized something had been... I was on a roll there for a tad. You know what I kind of miss? Those like video games like Ratchet and Clank and like remember Tad? Wasn't there like a... just like those sort of mascot style like platforming games, you know what I mean? I feel like they don't even really make those at all anymore. Like you have to hope like some... Jack and Daxter, all that kind of shit. I feel like there's... I mean, I guess they do make do they make Jack and Daxter and Ratchet and Clank games? Contra. Contra's good too, yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, Sonic games. Sonic games are weird, man. Like, I just don't get it. Like, there's something about it where it's supposed to be like this free-flowing, like hyper fast, speedy platforming style game, but at the same time, like the movement in it every time I play like a Sonic game always feels very like clunky and rigid. And the only time that it ever feels fast is whenever they like takes control away from you, you know what I mean? The new Sonic sucked. I paid $60 for nothing. Is that the one where it was like open world and like the Unreal 5 engine, where it looked like every other Unreal 5 engine ever, where it's like on just some like island, you know, open world kind of stuff. Like I like that there was a bunch of stuff to like bang around on it. I didn't play it, but it looked whatever. But the fact that I don't know, we've had Sonic out for so long. At this point, just give it to a new studio. Let them figure it out. Or like I think they should just like open the IP to anybody who wants to like make a game and see who can make the best one. But right now, it just seems like they're just shitter after shitter after shitter, but people just like love Sonic, I guess. But yeah, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, those were kind of the peak of the series, but I feel like at this point the game needs like some sort of new identity. But it definitely, in my opinion, it definitely needs to bring back Chow's. Like the chow chows or whatever they are, like the little blue guys that you can raise and give them hats and have them race each other and stuff, feed them fruit. That shit needs to be like a really like strong focus on a side, and feed them bowls of poop. Because I did beat, speaking of bowls of poop, I did beat that Cult of the Lamb game, which was really fun. But it sucks, like, when it's done, it's like, it's done. There's just like, I don't know, there's like not much else I really want to continue to unlock or anything. Maybe I'm too slow. Gotta go fast. Oh, see you, Grace. Take care. Kingdom Hearts final release. Oh yeah, when is that? Did they already do Kingdom Hearts 3? Doesn't Pokemon kind of rule Nintendo, sort of? I don't know. I mean, I know Pokemon's very popular, but it seems like the Pokemon games have kind of gone downhill. Even American accent that's truly difficult to place. Hey, move over here. I'm from America. What the frick, dude? Out of my way. Am I eating pie on Pie Day? I hope so, man. I hope so. Pokemon does rule Nintendo as it encompasses everything Nintendo has done since the 19th century with where they have been. Interesting. I wonder about, like, as far as, like, how much money they make for Nintendo as a whole. I don't know. For as much, like, it's just weird. There's always, like, there's some games in the Nintendo family that just feels super, super polished. But then there's a lot of, like, just games that come out on Nintendo where they just, you wonder if it's just, like, a small indie team, you know, working on it, because it just feels, like, not great. Oh, Raven, I was talking about earlier how I recently bought all the starter Pokemon from Gen 1 and then got the holographics. They call it like Mint 10 or something, like 10 rank or whatever, for Charizard, Blastoise, and Venusaur. I got them on display. It's pretty freaking sweet. Whatever happened to the transatlantic accent? You know who does it? Frasier. Frasier does it, so that's fine. You actually can hear the transatlantic accent in the House on Haunted Hill or whatever. Not House on Haunted Hill. What's that one called? I think that's what it's called, but I think one of the maids talks in like a transatlantic accent, and it's kind of like, I don't know. It's a little distracting because it sounds like Audrey Hepburn or some shit. The Haunting of Hill House, there you go. Yeah, and I tried to watch Bly Manor, but I was like 2 episodes into Bly Manor, and I'm like, this is kind of fucking boring. It just didn't have like the level of like mystery of the first one, and I feel like they should not have used the same actors, because it's really hard going from the last one directly into that, and like trying to take those actors seriously as their complete like new personas, you know? I don't know. As I ran into the diverting tunnel, the weak glow of the flashlight in my hand started to bounce off the much narrower walls, and I suddenly realized something had been written on them. At first I thought it was the graffiti the private investigator had mentioned, but even while running at full speed, I saw it was unlike any variety I'd ever seen before. It looked like writing of some kind, smeared in black paint, and an entire section of the tunnel appeared covered in what had to be more than 1,000 lines of it. I didn't even recognize the language, but for reasons you're already aware of, I also didn't have time to stop and study it. What I was really looking for was a place to hide, and as soon as... What I was really looking for was a place to hide, and I soon found one. Soon after I started to see all that weird script on the walls, I started to see a bunch of smaller and larger chambers leading off from the tunnel that I was running down. I picked one at random, lunged into it, and then tucked into the nearest corner to conceal myself from Lee's flashlight. Should he... Yeah, the booze are calling. Toss my salad and scramble my eggs. Do. Consider audiobook narration. Maybe it just doesn't pay enough, you know what I mean? Because whenever you start making money, you just want to go up, 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 up. Honestly, if I got asked to like narrate Lord of the Rings or something in like a really professional manner, I'd do it. God, I can only imagine how long that would fucking take. Basically, New American Horror Story in terms of reusing actors. That's what I kind of thought, and it kind of immediately made me feel like that's what they're going to try to go for every season, and it took the professionality of the first season out of it, you know what I mean? It just made it feel like, oh God, this is where we're heading, just to like, we're going to do spooky stories just for the sake of doing spooky stories, where, at least with season 1, I kind of felt like it took itself, the idea of ghosts, like very seriously, even if it was like nuanced and minute, you know, but it's going to have to like up its ante every season and eventually have Lady Gaga naked or something, you know. Spider-Man 2 on Steam, yeah, that does look sick. I picked one at random, lunged into it, and then tucked into the nearest corner to conceal myself from Lee's flashlight in case he pointed it into the chamber. I kept my breathing shallow, but my heart was hammering against my ribcage, and I quickly realized my hiding place did nothing to dampen my terror. Sure, I was out of Lee's sight, at least temporarily, but more than anything, I realized I was trapped. I remembered how I tried to stay as quiet as possible, but for the first few minutes, which felt like hours, my ears rang non-stop from the tunnel having amplified that sound of Lee's shots. I wondered if my hearing would ever go back to normal, and imagined Lee being able to creep right up on me without me ever being able to hear him. It was almost a relief when I started to hear his voice, along with the sound of crunching gravel as his footsteps got closer and closer. I wasn't deaf, but I was still trapped, so what little relief I felt was quickly drowned out by the raw terror of knowing that I was being hunted. Lee started calling out my name, telling me to come out, not trying to reason with me or make excuses for shooting at me, just telling me that I needed to come out because sooner or later, he was going to find me. I couldn't move. The sound of my footsteps would have almost certainly alerted him to my location, so I had no other choice but to remain in place and stay quiet as possible. That part was surprisingly easy because running all that way, with how unfit I was at the time, meant that I was more than happy to stay still and just catch my breath. When his footsteps got louder still, he suddenly pointed his flashlight down the tunnel my hiding place was at. Staying still and quiet suddenly got a lot harder in that moment. I remember saying it over and over in my head, with my voice being clear as hell in my mind saying, Don't come down here, don't come up. Joel, you know a surprising amount about bodybuilding and fitness culture. I'm also a coach and you should let me get you jacked and you could do a faceless physique reveal. Yeah, let me know, dude. I do need to lose. I just want to get to like a much leaner state, you know what I mean? And my issue is just, I think if I just like knew exactly what I was going to eat, you know, whereas like sometimes, you know, you kind of just like guesstimate what you want to eat and then you get later on and you're like, well, I'll have another 700 calories worth of cashews because you're like, oh, cashews are healthy, which, you know, technically they're better than everything, but it's still like 700 calories of it and it's like primarily fat and fiber. No, don't get lean. We must prepare for post-capitalism survival. What does that mean? Like an apocalypse? We're getting bombed and we gotta be ready? Oh yes, everybody click the like button. Food expensive. Food is expensive, huh? I guess that's one way to lose weight, is just not be able to afford it. You want to get lean too. The twink death is real. Wait, aren't twinks lean though? Oh, you've already lost your Twinkie charm. Eggs are $7 at your grocery store. That's crazy. That is nuts, honestly. Imagine narrating Lord of the Rings in the Mike Menser accent. Alright guys, now Bilbo had no idea anything about taking most of his training to failure. Otherwise, he probably would have got... I actually don't remember what Mike Metzger sounds like. It's some sort of nerd voice. Mike Menser voice. Very satisfying. Anyways. Bilbo should have used a dildo. $12 eggs in your small town. That's wild, dude. Would it be like cheaper just to get it locally from a farmer or some shit? You're not obese by any means, but you want to get in shape? Yeah, I mean, just, I sound like Ben Shapiro. That's funny. Yeah, just, find yourself a lifting program and get into that and just start eating protein. And do some walking, I guess. Joel play Monster Hunter Wilds. My friends have been playing and it looks cool. I don't know. Like, I'm not saying it's a Dark Souls game, but it's got Dark Souls style combat, as I'm sure, and it's not exactly like Dark Souls, but it's pretty much just like lock your character onto a big monster and press your button mash till you fly up in the air and hurt it enough, and I don't know. Did I play Baldur's Gate 3? I did for a while, yeah. I had like a solid 5-hour play sessions with friends one night, and then we just never really got back to it. Maybe it was a few sessions, I forget. Ben Shapiro RFK rap battle. We have to invade for Israel. I don't know if that's such a good idea. Doesn't matter what you're saying. You sound weird. Speak for yourself, you little munchkin. We're the same height. I remember saying it over and over in my head, with my voice being clear as a bell in my mind, saying, "Don't come down here. Don't come down here. Please, God, don't let him find me." And I guess God listened or something, because instead of heading down the tunnel I was in, he just kept on walking. I thought that might be my chance to make a run for it. If Lee was heading deeper into the mine, then maybe I could slip out behind him. But that glimmer of hope was quickly snuffed out when I remembered how loud my own footsteps would be, and how he might not miss all of his shots that time. He technically hadn't missed all of his shots. I later found a bullet hole running through one of the flat pockets of my jacket. But I guess, for now, I should just get back to my story. And like I was saying, I stayed dead. Why did that sounded weird. I don't feel like that line is... What the fuck? I feel like that didn't actually even divert from the story for like half a second. Maybe he went to have like a smoke break and came back. I guess I better get back to my story. We'll be rolling out the measles vaccine soon. What do you do for stories that are good but the writing is bad? Good but the writing is... Oh, I mean, I can just throw it through the grammar machine of ChatGPT. And I guess God listened, because instead of heading down the tunnel that I was in, he just kept on walking. I thought that might be my chance to make a run for it. If Lee was heading deeper into the mine, then maybe I could slip out behind him. But that glimmer of hope was quickly snuffed out when I remembered how loud my own footsteps would be, and how he might not miss all of his shots that time. And he technically had not missed all of his shots. I later found a bullet hole running through one of the flap pockets of my jacket. But like I was saying, I stayed dead still in that dark chamber, keeping my ears tuned for Lee's voice and footsteps. They were still ringing. They were still ringing from the shots, and I could hear my heart pulsating into my ears, but it wasn't as bad as it... Fuck. But it wasn't as bad as it had been previously, and I could hear almost every word Lee was saying as he continued to hunt me down. His footsteps were slow and steady, and occasionally he mumbled something I couldn't quite make out. But then suddenly, his footsteps went from slow and rhythmic to sharp and quick with a scrape of gravel, and then there was silence. It sounded like he suddenly turned around, like he'd heard something that had startled him, and he figured it was me trying to make a break for it. He stayed still for a few moments, this horrible silence hanging in the air, and then he said, "I know you're here." And hearing those words terrified me in ways I never... Oh. Whoops. $30 for eggs? What? I just hate how, like, manufactured all of the bullshit is. So stupid. $4.50 eggs in New York? You're gonna get on a plane. We need to go rob a egg store. A chicken coop. He stayed still for a few moments, a horrible silence hanging in the air, and then he said, "I know you're here, Stanley." And hearing those words terrified me in ways I never thought possible, because Stanley isn't my name. It was my dad's name. It was like my mind was on the verge of fracturing from the combination of terror, confusion, and painful memory. Uncle Lee must have lost his goddamned mind. There was no other explanation for it, and the reality of what that meant for me was almost too much to handle. I wanted more than anything to try and reason with him, to appeal to a sense of kinship. We'd already lost one man in the family. There was no reason to lose another, especially not by his own hand. But I also knew that there was a chance that that gamble would be the last I'd ever take. He'd already tried to kill me, and there was nothing to say that he wouldn't try again. In the end, I just resigned myself to staying put and simply waiting until... Make me a fucking omelet. Sometimes we gotta break a few eggs to make an omelet. Dude, I feel like that's like whoever's going around putting the bird flu in all the chickens' faces. Probably like they looked at each other when they were in the, CIA van, and they were like, "Guess we gotta break a few eggs to make an omelet." Ha ha ha. Guys, I need you to get locked in. This story is serious. In the end, I resigned myself to just staying put and simply waiting until he came around the corner of my hiding place. I'd rush him and try to get control of that gun. Then whatever happened next, I could only hope for the best. But as I listened for his footsteps, But as I listened to his footsteps become slow, I see. Raven, thank you. That's so Raven for becoming a member of the Buttersaw Cult. You now have access to bonus content. Joel can read a children's story. It'd be scary. That would be funny. Like, I have kids and I have to read them to bed, but it's like a pleasant Dr. Seuss book or something, but just the way that I read that still like gives them nightmares. They pretty much piss themselves every night. You got booted? Oh, I'm sorry. That's weird. Wonder why that happened. YouTube shut itself down. Also, we're at 500 viewers, like way earlier in the stream than normal, so that's pretty pog champ. The Walmart Battle Pass. Bro, they should do that. I feel like Walmart should give some sort of benefit to, like, being a loyal shopper, where after you've, like, purchased over $500 worth of shit, you get a free... You get to take one of the employees home or something, I don't know. I don't even think that the employees would even be aware that they've been kidnapped. Most of them just sort of, like, stare into nothingness when I walk by them. Do you think, like, as you come into Walmart as an employee, they, like, spray Valium or something into their face? Maybe. That's what I would do if I owned, like, a department store. I would just, like, sort of kind of aerosolize some degree of sedative in the employee lounge just to keep them sedated. Scary stories from Walmart. Oh, I saw a story by... Oh, went away. Message redacted. But as I listened to his footsteps become slow and steady again, waiting for them to get louder and louder before I saw his flashlight, we both heard the sound of something else moving in those tunnels. I couldn't tell you who it was. They didn't say a word, and I didn't hear any additional footsteps. All I heard was what sounded like rocks shifting someplace deeper in the tunnels, and then Lee started to speak. I couldn't make out what he was saying at first. He just stopped dead still and then started to mutter something under his breath. I had absolutely zero clue what was going on. I was scared out of my mind, but all I could do was stand there, still as a goddamn statue, and keep my ears tuned like my life depended on it. Because it did. And Lee just carried on muttering to himself, or at least it sounded like he was muttering to himself. And then out of nowhere, I felt this rush of warm air blow through the tunnels, like it was coming from deep down someplace, and it smelled like evil. And when I say that it smelled like evil, I only use that word in place of death. I was about to write it smelled like death, but as someone unfortunate enough to have come across a rotting deer carcass in high summer, that's not the same scent as what I smelled in that mine shaft that day. It wasn't that sort of sick smell of rotten decay that makes you want to either puke or run or both. It was something so foul it shouldn't exist by any natural law. It smelled like burning dark. That's the only way I can truly sum it up. Like something that I can't... Do you smell the rocks a cooking? That's the smell of death and rotten eggs. If I submitted a scary story, it would be about the time my roommate and I came home. I went to my room and I found an old used condom just on the bed, almost blacked out. Interesting. Someone made the hanky-panky on your bed? It smelled like burning death. That's the only way I can truly sum it up. Like something that can't exist here on the surface, something older than the mine itself. It had me covering my mouth and nose with my shirt because my first assumption was that it was one of those toxic gases I once read about miners having to worry about. And I remember thinking, so this is why they had to abandon this godforsaken place, as I kept my shirt clamped over my mouth and nose. And then suddenly, I hear Lee begin to yell something. I can't guarantee that these were his exact words, merely by recollection of them, but to my memory he said, "He's here. I brought him. I did what you asked." He repeated himself a lot, said stuff in between like please or you gotta believe me. But he said that first part over and over, in fits and rage, with his screams getting louder and louder until I couldn't make the words out anymore. By the time his yells had degenerated into what sounded like screams of pain and terror, I made a run for it, in the hopes that he was suitably distracted. He wasn't anywhere near the tunnel I was in. I didn't even see his flashlight as I ran, but during the whole time that I was hurtling out of that tunnel at speeds I was sure would end in me falling, I heard Lee's screams. I kept on hearing them as I ran out into the daylight too. They were much fainter and had this eerie, echoey quality about them, but I could still hear them right up until they suddenly went silent. And I didn't look back though. I didn't even consider it. I just kept on running towards the gentler slope we'd used to climb down into that pit. I then scaled it and then carried on running through the woods until my legs screamed out no more. The woods were quiet, but Uncle Lee's screams kept on echoing around in my head, and I was overtaken by these contradictory feelings of trauma and this bizarre sense of victory. I'd made it out, but I couldn't enjoy that feeling because, for whatever reason, Uncle Lee hadn't. When I couldn't run anymore, I began walking back to my truck, and it took a long time before I spotted the glint of its metal. You want a baby goat? You could go to goat yoga. Hey Joe, hey Ben, usually I'm asleep this time, but since Ramadan I've been able to join the others. Well, welcome. What have you been eating for Ramadan? Rami-dami mommy. In the morning you have, I'm gonna guess, you have eggs and dates. And in the evening you have rice and cornbread. Appalachia honestly seems cursed at this point. I don't know, I was reading somewhere, or like heard that the mountain range itself is like older than like the oldest tree on earth or something like that. Just like in the formation of it through the Pangea and the tectonic plates moving, like the Appalachian mountain and all the tunnels that exist within it have been around for countless ages. I sent a story the other day about the time I was stalked, nearly abducted when I was a kid in the 90s. Okay, thank you for sending your story. Yeah, if you guys have a story, let's read submissions at let's read submissions at gmail.com. Toddler meltdown before bed, as always. I wonder what that's gotta, like, it's just funny. The toddler meltdown where you just, like, eventually just turn your brain off to it and you're like, yes, I know. The worst thing in the world. Granddaughter of coal miners from West Virginia. It's terrible now. Like, as far as cursed goes, or there's like a lot of ghosts there. Oh, you had oat, banana, date. Nice, I got the date right. Smoothie, can't wait to eat much. Dude, dates are so good, man. You should have the ones with like coconut sprinkled on it. That shit is fire. Fire, fire. When I couldn't run anymore, I began walking back to my truck, and it took a long time before I spotted the glint of its metal bed through a thinning. When I couldn't run anymore, I began walking back to my truck. Sounds weird. When I couldn't run anymore, I began walking back to my truck, and it took a long time before I spotted the glint of its metal bed through a thinning thicket of trees. My hands trembled as I reached for the door handle, and then after yanking it open, I slid into the driver's seat and just sort of sat there for a moment, staring at the windshield. I couldn't even process what had just happened to me, and I think I've already said this, I couldn't feel happy that I made it either. Instead, it was just this numb sense of resignation that I had to drive home and report my own attempted murder to the county sheriff, along with a single word and all dates stuffed with goat cheese topped with crushed pistachio and honey. What? Dates stuffed with goat cheese topped with crushed pistachios and honey. God damn, that sounds fucking... Where do you even find that? You make that yourself? You make that yourself? What's that you're reading? It's a spooky story, pretty much. Whoppers candy suddenly sounds good. Yeah. I remember I had like a family member that had this sort of deer statue made of wood that was like filled with whoppers, and whenever you would like move its head, the whoppers would like come out of its ass like it was pooping. I thought that was kind of hilarious. I ate so many though. Along with the single word, all permeating. Along with the single word, all permeating. That does not sound right. Along with the single word. Just get rid of the permeating part. Whatever. Keep it simple, Squoop Squid. Anyone tasted the viral Dubai chocolate? No, dude. I should move to Dubai, honestly. Let's all just live there and buy a tiger. Tiger. Should have said, please, Mr. Zawinski. That's such a funny meme. Haha, I like memes. Memes. Along with a single word. Why? I could only manage to drive my truck as far as Coretta before I had to stop. There was no way that I'd be able to drive safely given my condition, and it was the first place available to call the sheriff's department. My hands were still shaking when I asked a motel receptionist if I could use their phone. I could tell that she was a little scared of me on account of my appearance and demeanor, but she let me use their phone all the same. I didn't bother trying to keep the call private. I mean, I lowered my voice, but with a girl right there in front of me, there wasn't much that I could do to keep her from hearing. I told the dispatch lady that my uncle had tried to kill me at the abandoned mining pit north of Cucumber, and how I thought that he'd had some kind of accident and was still inside. And I must have sounded real wigged out and distant, but they understood enough to send help. 2 deputies showed up to the motel in a cruiser maybe 10 to 15 minutes later, and I told them everything. They wrote it all down, then they told me that they'd call me once they checked out the mines. I drove home, took a shower, and tried to process everything that had happened, but there was no processing it, and even after all these years, I still haven't been able to. A few hours later, I got a call from one of the deputies. They'd found footprints and shell casings, but no Uncle Lee. And what followed was the exact same process as what happened after my dad went missing. At least, I imagine it all went down a similar way. The sheriff got search and rescue involved, who once again explored the mine as deep as it was safe to do so, and there was no sign of Uncle Lee anywhere. No blood, no body, no weapon. Only those shell casings lying near the entrance from where he'd shot at me and I'd run. I told them all about the rush of warm air and how Lee had started to scream, "He's here, I brought him, I did what you asked." And then after many weeks of investigating and consulting with experts, the county sheriff announced their conclusion, and this is what he told us. In mining, there are things called blowouts or gas blowouts, and these events involve accidental releases of gas like methane, carbon monoxide, hydrogen sulfide, and carbon dioxide, all of which can build up in the mines and provide prove toxic. Yes. How do I stay? Do I stay or do I go shake my ass with randos? I don't know. I guess shit, you have to ask yourself, do you feel spiritually satisfied shaking your ass with random folks? Which, maybe it's in your soul to go dance, but maybe it's not. Maybe you were made for something greater. And that something greater is to hang out on the Let's Read live stream, and to watch all the ads, and to click all the ads, and to donate $1 million trillion, and to, just kidding. And to buy my merch, and to pay my mortgage. Yeah, you technically could shake your ass here. If you wanted to. Oh, no worries, Emily, no worries. Oh, man. Too many women have OnlyFans? Too many women have OnlyFans. I feel like I want to get that framed. I want to get that on a t-shirt. It just says, too many women have OnlyFans. And it's like a caveman. Ain't that the truth, caveman? Ain't that the truth? Too many women. These events involve the accidental release of gases like methane, carbon monoxide, hydrogen sulfide. Fuck, man. What time does the live start? I think we started at like 10:30. 2:30. I don't know. I mean, it is interesting. Like, have we already gone through like a generation of OnlyFans chicks who like started right out the gate and then like made it to the other side and they're like, this is my experience, you know? Is there like a certain amount of money that you make and then I suppose you could just keep doing it forever and you probably build up like a solid following as well who are like loyal and maybe you sort of like trick them into thinking that you like them or something. Justin, welcome back for 3 months, shaking his ass for the chat. Thank you, Justin. Tonight is the night to start the OnlyFans. The internal OnlyFans. The dating game is trash, bro, and OnlyFans hasn't helped. Well, that's true, too. That's true, too. Yeah. Yes. I mean, that's got to be, like, really strange. Like, I'm actually wonder if you... Like, I'd like to meet someone who's, like, graduated and been like, bro, I know way too many girls within my circle of, like, social interaction that, like, have an OnlyFans. Because that's just got to be, like, a strange feeling to be, like, in college or something. You just, like, know a ton of them that have it. And then they're making $2 million a year. And they don't even want your drink. They're not... You're broke. You broke, boy. There are retired OnlyFans workers. They're, like, all in, like, a retirement home. Like wearing like skimpy outfits while going around on a walker. They're doing like TikTok dances but like breaking their osteoporosis legs. Oh, my hip. I can't quite throw it back like I used to. I wish I had a husband and grandkids. These events involve accidental releases of gases like methane, carbon monoxide, hydrogen sulfide, or carbon dioxide, all of which can build up in the mines and prove toxic at certain concentrations. And they're caused by things like drilling, blasting, or sudden changes in pressure, and cause poison gases
Oh, I dropped my number 2 pencil. I better get it. Oh, God. I can't keep it in.
Like farts a baby onto the floor. They're caused by things like drilling, blasting, and sudden changes in pressure, and cause poison gases to rush out like tsunamis of toxic vapor. And it's one of those blowouts that the sheriff believed me and my uncle had been caught up in. They explained that in all likelihood, Uncle Lee was hit with a kind of gas cocktail, consisting for the most part of highly concentrated CO2, and this led to a kind of frightened disorientation which ended up causing him to attack me in his confusion. Naturally, given the circumstances, the sheriff told me and Mom that Lee had become the #1 suspect in my dad's disappearance, in which there had almost certainly been some kind of foul play involved. There had been no activity in his bank account after he disappeared, which was probably the #1 reason we all thought that he was gone and hadn't just decided to vanish without a trace. I mean, it was still possible that Dad going missing had nothing to do with what Lee did later, but the sheriff himself said that he was very interested in catching up with Lee so he could find out why he'd called me by my dad's name instead of my own. But more than 2 decades have passed now, and not a trace of Uncle Lee or my dad has ever been found. After the sheriff and his search and rescue teeple. Joe, you have a gorgeous voice. Exploit it as much as possible. Thank you, Jillian. I will do my best.
I will do it to call upon Godzilla to rise from his watery grave and destroy the evil people of Tokyo. Rise!
Thanks for making all 4 years of high school less boring. You're welcome, Jordan. I'm glad you survived.
You survived high school. You did it.
And now, it's time to join Adult Dodgeball League. Tokyo's gone. Thank you, Godzilla. Thank you, Godzilla. Execute Order 66. After the sheriff and his search and rescue people searched the mine, he ordered them all to seal it off with explosives to prevent others suffering the same tragic fate. But their opinion of what Lee's fate was and my own opinion differ greatly. I didn't make a fuss at the time, and I still don't. And what I'm writing now is the first word of objection I've ever committed to paper, let alone voiced out loud. But I don't believe for a second that it was some rush of CO2 that made Uncle Lee start shooting at me. I told the sheriff back then over and over that the rush of warm air didn't happen as we were walking in. It happened as I was hiding, right before Lee started calling out for my dad, saying all that weird stuff and eventually screaming unintelligibly. But the sheriff and his experts acted like I got it all wrong. That I was so disoriented by the fear, the adrenaline, probably a dose of CO2 myself, that I didn't really know what had happened to me. But I do know what happened to me. And I know what happened to my Uncle Lee, too. I just don't think I'm ready to actually say it. I also don't think that I'll ever be ready to really say it, because doing so feels like opening the door to some great and terrible darkness. I just know that there's something out there, deep in those mine shafts just north of Cucumber, that's better off left alone.
Roasted and solid.
Roasted and solid. Roasted and salted. Better off left roasted and salted. Appalachian. Alright. So that's story 1. It's a long boy. Long and thick gentleman. Long and thick cucumber. Terry, welcome back for 34 months. This Saturday is International Women's Day. Happy day to us women's. Oh, and rule 34 months. Woohoo! It's like the Homer voice. Woohoo! Thank you, Terry. Thank you for sticking around for a long-ass time. Respect Wayman. Guys, we gotta start respecting Wayman. We gotta start letting them know. We gotta start... If you see a woman in the street late at night, you gotta start running up to them on all fours as fast as you can so you can thank them for just having a vagina and boobs and stuff. Ah! Hello. I just wanted to thank you. I just want to thank you for everything. You like sprint up to them and then you take like a big swig of a 2-liter of Sprite. Thank you so much. Alright. How about birthing everyone? Hey, we made a few people in labs, so they can't take all the credit. Also, don't forget about Jesus. He was... Oh wait, he was birthed too. Oh, for some reason I thought he came out of the sky. I always forget that part. Alright. My name is Mira, and I'm a postdoctoral researcher at UNC Chapel Hill's Department of Anthropology. My research focuses on the intersection of cultural practices and social identity, with an emphasis on ethnographic methodologies and historical contextualization. Or, in plain English, I study how people's traditions and sense of belonging connect by watching them closely and looking at their past. I've undertaken a lot of interesting projects in my time, and while most have been both enriching and satisfying, there's one that I frankly wish that I could forget. And that's not down to the subject matter nor the people that I dealt with, as I cannot speak too highly of either, but rather a very a rather particular. Has he said anything on Mothman yet? I haven't. Should I be saying it? Whole lot of sausage in this feed. I think it's like 50... I think it's 60-40 women to man usually. Women to man. I fell asleep to the stalker bit around 10 and then just got up to pee and you're on. I was wondering when you were gonna be on. Must have fell asleep right before you started the stream. Oh, no worries. Sleep is good. Hello, ladies. But rather a very particular encounter with a very particular woman while researching the kinship networks, ritual traditions, and sociocultural resilience of the Melungeon Appalachians. To cut a very, very long story short, the Melungeons are a mixed-race people who inhabit the area where Tennessee, Virginia, and North Carolina intersect. They're believed to have a blend of Melungeon. I have never heard of the Melungeon, but it sounds kind of cool. Melungeon. Oh, it's a thing. Melungeon. Hello, Governor. Hello, Melungeon. Oh, it sounds like dungeon. Melungeon. I found a Melungeon down in a dungeon. I'm Melungeon for your purse. But rather, a very particular encounter with a very particular woman while researching the kinship networks, ritual traditions, and sociocultural resilience of the Melungeon Appalachians. To cut a very, very long story short, the Melungeons are a mixed-race people who inhabit the area where Tennessee, Virginia, and North Carolina intersect. They're believed to have a blend of European, African, and Native American ancestries with origins tracing back to the late 18th century or earlier. The term Melungeon comes from the French word mélange, meaning mixture. Is that what that is? Mélange. 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 Hi, tampons. Hello. The term Melungeon comes from the French word mélange, meaning mixture, and was applied to those who lived in relative isolation in areas like Hawkins and Hancock counties in Tennessee, Lee County in Virginia, and parts of western North Carolina. The exact origins of the Melungeons remains hotly debated, with theories ranging from shipwrecked Portuguese sailors or lost colony survivors to unions between free peoples of color, European settlers, and indigenous groups like the Cherokee or Saponi Native Americans. Genetic studies, such as those from the Journal of Genetic Genealogy, suggest many Melungeons have roots in sub-Saharan Africa and northern Europe, possibly from early colonial interactions before strict racial laws had been established. Physical traits like dark hair, light eyes, and the so-called Melungeon bump on the head have been observed by researchers, though appearances are known to vary widely. Over time, many Melungeons have assimilated into broader populations, but these days, it's common for their descendants to embrace their ancestry through groups like Melungeon Heritage Association or celebrate a complex identity that challenges what have traditionally been challenges. Okay. Mélange. Mélange. Have you seen Mélange? Okay. So I am saying this right. I have never heard of these people before. Melungeon. Huh. Huh. Interesting. Is it like just in a specific area? Grandma? Not Jackie Chan with the 2. Entropy 02. I have not played it yet. I need to. I had it pinned. I had it pinned on a Steam link, and I almost forgot. Let me do that again. Entropy 02. Steam. Pin it. Pin that tab. Thank you, Jackie Chan. I won't forget this time. You know of a family in West Virginia? Nice. But these days, it's common for their descendants to embrace their ancestry through groups like the Melungeon Heritage Association, who celebrate a complex identity that challenges what has traditionally been rigid racial categories. Undertaking research into the Melungeons seemed like an incredible opportunity, and in anthropology, it's rare to get one like that doesn't come with a King of the Hill revival coming. I hope it's good. I mean, I don't know. Like, as far like I would say, of all the shows that could kind of come back and really not change that much, it's probably King of the Hill, because there was really nothing too edgy, I guess, about King of the Hill in the past. It was just kind of like simplistic, silly characters. I don't know. I remember, like, honestly not really liking King of the Hill that much when it existed, but there was more parts of it that I started to appreciate as I would watch it with other people, you know what I mean? When I lived there for a few months, there was a lady who pulled up next to my place and made them... Undertaking research into the Melungeons seemed like an incredible opportunity, and in anthropology it's rare to get one like that doesn't come with a 14-hour flight and a phrase book, and I was overjoyed to receive the news my proposal had been accepted. But if I'd have known what I was going to encounter, there's no way in hell that I'd ever have honored it, and this is why. I remember driving along this winding Appalachian road, my old sedan rattling over the gravel as I wondered if the old girl was finally going to give up before I made it to my destination. The latest thread that I'd pulled led me to a village called Hollow Ridge, a place that, depending on which one you studied, wasn't even on the map. Some accounts made the rather incredible claim that the town's population manifested an atypical aging process, one that ostensibly deviated from normative physiological expectations. Or to phrase it like the nice lady at the diner I stopped at said, all that good mountain air means folks out there live a heck of a long time. My notebooks were full of dead ends, so I figured that there was no harm in chasing that one too. After hours of driving, Hollow Ridge finally came into view. Clapboard houses sagged against the hillside, smoke curled from chimneys while a few folks lingered on porches watching me roll in. I parked near a general store, grabbed my bag, and stepped out to breathe the air that smelled of damp earth and pine oil. A man in overalls nodded me from across the street, and I quietly nodded back, then headed inside the store. The store clerk, a wiry guy with graying hair, eyed me up with suspicion when I started asking questions about the village. I told him I was a genealogist, tracking Melungeon bloodlines, and he frowned, giving me another look of mistrust and then pointed me toward a direct path leading up the ridge. "Folks up there don't take to outsiders," he said, then told me, "Better mind yourself." I thanked him, bought a Coke and a pack of gum, and then started walking toward the ridge. The path climbed up steep and cut through thick woods as my boots crunched on leaves and twigs, and it was tough going, but after maybe a mile or so I came to a cluster of houses, smaller and older than the ones below. A woman sat on a porch shelling peas. She looked up, and her eyes were dark and steady as I introduced myself, and I said that I was researching family histories. She didn't smile. She just jerked her head toward the house behind her. "Mama's inside," she told me. "She the one you want to talk to." I stepped up onto the porch, and the door creaked open before I could knock. Two men stood there, both tall with weathered skin and white hair, who looked as if though they might be brothers. They didn't invite me in, and they didn't ask me what I wanted either. They just stared until I took the initiative and explained why I was there. I kept it simple, and then the slightly shorter man who had a scar across his cheek told me, "Mom was 112. She don't talk much. Don't tire her out." The other one nodded, and then they stepped out of the doorway and beckoned me inside. The house smelled of mildew and wood smoke, with a dim living room lit by a single electric lamp. In the corner, lying in a single bed, was a woman, or at least what was left of one. When I say that she was skeletal, I mean that in the very sense of the word. Her skin was stretched so tight over her bones that it looked like the slightest touch would draw blood, and while her eyes were sunk so far deep in their sockets that it made her look nothing short of ghostly. Her hair hung in these thin white strands, and her hands rested like claws by her sides, and her breathing sounded like her windpipe was lined with sandpaper. I'd seen elderly folks before, but she was something else, and as I sat down on a stool one of her sons dragged over for me, she exhibited no reaction to me whatsoever. Not a look, not a word, nothing. I started easy by asking her name, and when she didn't respond, one of her sons whispered, "Onida," from behind me. I'll make sure I say that right. Joel, you're one of the few people who ever came close to actually pronouncing my last name. Justin Balas. Or is it Bajas? Or is it just Bala? Justin Bala. Baya. I don't know. You're gonna have to give us a hint. Justin Cheek Shaker. Am I going to any springtime concerts? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think I have anything planned. My one friend wants to go bow fishing. I'd never done that before. Did you take acting classes by chance? I'm always impressed through the character voices. No, I guess I never done acting classes. I just kind of I like the idea of acting, you know what I mean? So ever since I was young, I would always just sort of mimic actors' lines, or just kind of like play pretend in my head, you know what I mean? Or in front of a mirror, just like say and act how I imagine a scenario playing out. So maybe that's like I gave myself practice, I guess. All right, how do you say this name? Onida? Have you ever gotten a fire permit? Like to light a fire? Onida. Okay, we got it. Or you mean like for a gun? Any goals this year? Yeah, I just want to blow up, you know? Literally explode. No, I'm just kidding. You know, I do have goals. They're there for sure. I can't talk about specifics yet. But you'll hear them soon. When she didn't respond, one of her sons whispered, "Onida." That sounded weird. Onida. When she didn't respond, one of her sons whispered, "Onida," from behind me. I then asked where her people came from, and she offered no answer, and her gaze remained locked on the near distance, unblinking. I tried asking about her parents, her childhood, but still got nothing, and her sons hovered nearby, their arms crossed as they watched. "She's weak," one of them eventually said. "Don't push her now." I told them that I understood, but my curiosity burned in my chest, and a 112-year-old who looked like she'd been starving for decades, I had to know more. I leaned forward, keeping my voice soft as I asked her, "Ma'am, how long have you lived for? And how have you lived so long? What's your secret?" For the first time, she seemed to latch onto a word, and after her eyes widened and her lips parted, she turned to me with a look of fear on her face. And then, in a faint, raspy voice that was barely above a whisper, she said, "It eats the years." And the strain of forcing out the words looked like it was killing her, and when she was done, her eyes rolled back and her body jerked weakly as she began to gasp for air. Her sons rushed over, one yelling for me to get out while the other tended to his mother. I grabbed my bag and stumbled outside, heart hammering as the door slammed behind me. Then as I walked back, she killed him. Killed her. She killed it. Then as I walked back down to the ridgeline, the old woman's words echoed around my skull. What in the world did she mean by, "It eats the years"? I wanted to go back. I wanted that more than anything, to just demand answers. but I knew better than to outstay my welcome in such an isolated place. The woman with the peas was gone, her bowl abandoned as I started down the path with the son's cry of "Don't come back" still ringing in my ears. And when I got back to my car, I just sat for a while, scrimping. I was scrumping. Scrumdumbling. When I got back to my car, I sat for a while, scribbling down every detail I could. The village felt different now, quieter and heavier. God damn it, man. The village felt different now, quieter and heavier, and as I drove off, I found myself checking my rearview mirror much more frequently than usual. That night, I sat in my apartment replaying the day's events over and over in my head. Onida's face wouldn't leave me, and neither would her. Onida's face wouldn't leave me, and neither would her words. And I tried to sleep, but the whole encounter just kept replaying in my mind. Then, when I finally did get some sleep, I had the most vivid nightmare where it was me who was lying in that bed, more than a century old, crouching the words, it eats the years in the face of some terrifying, okay. Maybe crunching the words. I lied. I made more katsu and rice. I'm addicted again. Ruh-roh. Ruh-roh. Uh-oh. It's 7 a.m. and I have vacation. I'm going to listen to fall asleep. Nice, dude. Vacation rocks. It means no nothing. Then when I finally did get some sleep, I had the most vivid nightmare where it was me who was lying in that bed, more than a century old, crunching the words, "It eats the years," in the face of some terrified young researcher. And the next morning I called a research fellow that I happened to be friends with, a folklorist who'd written whole studies on Appalachian myths and legends. I told him about Hollow Ridge, about Onida and what she'd said to me. And he went quiet for a few seconds, then, after audibly clearing his throat, said that he'd heard a lot of rumors of the village fitting that description. He'd never been able to confirm them because they never came with many details, just old folk tales about pacts with the land. He told me such a find might end up being a great source of pride for me and that he was excited to read my paper when it was finished. I thanked him, but after I hung up, I found myself even more unsettled than before. As the days went by, I found it impossible to think of anything else. Maybe it was the way my friend had hyped me up, but I simply had to know more. And so about a week later, I drove back to that village, parked my car, and then walked down that path again. But when I arrived at the village and walked up the ridgeline to where Onida's home had been, no one was on the porches and the houses seemed empty. I reached Onida's family home and knocked on the door, but there was no answer. However, anything cool going on, guys? Anything cool happening besides my sweet-ass reading? Isn't there anything cool going on Earth? What about locally? Is there anything cool happening in your... Are there any hot MILFs in your local area? You want to go to the moon? Oh, you'll get there. You'll get there. We just need to take the rest of these pills here. It'd be cool if I twerked. That would be nice, wouldn't it? 10 seconds away from what? That sounds concerning. I took a DNA test a while ago and it said we were cousins. What say you? I guess we all are. Some degree of simian. Some lady got hit by a car on the corner of my street and was out, but got up and walked it off like a boss. That's awesome. She went back and finished her crack pipe. I got ads for cougars, BBWs in my area 10 miles away, but then I clicked my computer and self-destructed. That would be funny if like viruses just went all out instead of them trying to like hack your computer or whatever they're supposed to. I don't even know. What does a virus even do anyways, but it would be hilarious if it just like short circuits and like actually explodes. However, upon finding that door was unlocked, my curiosity got the better of me and I pushed it open. The living room was empty. No lamp, no bed, no Onida. I checked the other rooms. Nothing. No furniture or signs of life. I walked back outside and called out, but I got nothing but silence. And it was like everyone vanished. And weeks went by. I found myself avoiding my research, but the question still gnawed at me. What had Onida meant by "it eats the years"? It obviously couldn't be literal, right? It had to be a metaphor, but for what? And why did it look like it scared her so badly? I began digging into my books, cross-referencing Melungeon folklore with anything I could find on Hollow Ridge, but I had no luck. I then engaged with the university's archival resources, including those in the North Carolina collection at Wilson's Specialty Collection. Oga boga. I then went to Arkham University, and I talked to Dr. Lovecraft. I then engaged with the university's archival resources, including those in the North Carolina collection at Wilson's Special Collections Library, and it was there that I had a small but very significant breakthrough. One night, while elbow deep in online research, I found an old journal scan dated from the 700. Jesus fuck. One night, while elbow deep in online research, I found an old journal scan dated from the 1700s that detailed a fur trapper's account of what he called Hungry Hollow. The village he described matched Hollow Ridge to a T, and while he didn't provide much detail beyond the description, he stated very clearly that the place's unnatural temperament meant that he'd avoid a return visit no matter the cost. If you'd assumed my encounter with Onida and her 2 sons failed to make it into my research paper, you'd be correct. I wanted more than anything to get to the bottom of what I'd seen and heard, but with nothing to reference outside of my own personal experience, doing so would have been fruitless at best and detrimental at worst. So instead of falling down a rabbit hole of a rather spurious nature, I decided that the best course of action was to simply try and forget about it. But I can't forget. And no matter how hard I try and rationalize what Onida said to me, there's still something deeply unsettling about the way she acted while saying it. I wouldn't say that I've spent a lot of time around the elderly or the senile, not as much as other researchers, but I feel capable of distinguishing the confusion and fright of slowly losing one's mind from the very tangible terror associated with things people believe are real. But on that day, and in Onida's eyes, I saw real emotion and real fear, and I'm in no hurry whatsoever to encounter it again in the near or distant future. What did the fur trapper? I feel like there could have been more expanding upon what the fur trapper had seen or whatever, unless, I don't know. I feel like we should look up and see if there's anything about the fur trapper, and I don't think it would be like rude to like add that to the person's story. That's how one night, elbow dip, found an online journal scan dated from 1700s to a fur trapper's account of Hungry Hollow. The village described much. He didn't much detail beyond the description. He stated that he'd studied he didn't like it. That's all he said. I feel like this should have been like a whole ass couple paragraphs about like some fucking really creepy shit, but well, I guess it's just ambiguous ending there. Is there anything matching in Appalachian folklore related to this paragraph? Periography. Simone Archibald, welcome back for 3 months. Good night, peeps. All good? I'm out of butter. Better get some more, mate. Fill on up. Fill her up. Get to churning. But thank you for the 3 months. The Wampus Cat, a supernatural feline beast said to haunt the mountains, often tied to cursed land or places that some people avoid. Some versions describe trappers or settlers encountering strange areas where the creature's presence made people flee. The Lost Towns. Appalachian folklore is full of stories of settlements that were mysteriously abandoned. Some versions claim that these towns fell victim to supernatural forces or curses, leading locals to avoid them. The mysterious lights. Some regions, particularly West Virginia and Kentucky, have stories of glowing lights or strange atmospheric disturbances over haunted areas. Trappers and settlers sometimes recorded eerie experiences in their journals. Their journals. Cattywampus. Oh, that's true. Some Appalachians legends involve cursed hollows or valleys where people disappear, go mad, or see things that shouldn't exist. These tales often involve places with names like Devil's Hollow or Hungry Gap, echoing your Hungry Hollow. That's funny. It's like an exact copy. Well, yeah, I guess if there's no other details pertaining to that, I guess we can't really add to it. Oh well, whatever. It's good as is. Girl Scouts really suck this year. What, the cookies? Or are you in Girl Scouts, babes? You're a super mega... You're pretty much the Navy SEAL of Girl Scouts at this point. That would be funny if, like, Girl Scouts had, like, a special operations unit. We're going in. We got the cookies. They're going in your mouth. What would a Navy SEAL of Girl Scouts be called, do you guys think? Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. The Gravy Seals, the Twinks, the Twinkies, yeah. This is them sounding their horn. This is all you hear before your entire home is flashbanged and you're dead. And they come out like fucking Ewoks, throwing cookies at your head with slingshots. Alright, dudes. I'm gonna take my magnesium. You talk amongst yourselves. Think of something. Think of some funny skits. We gotta write these down. I'll be right back. Jeez, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Like, open my eyes and it's just like, whoa, what the fuck is going on here? Oh, man. Dun, dun. You take beef liver supplements, B12, D3, probiotics, collagen, zinc, copper from time to time. What shoes do I walk in? I need to get new shoes. I've had the same. If you look at the bottom of my fucking shoes now, they are worn the fuck out, bro. I probably got a hole in them. You ever do skits with people with your stories? I think that would be dope. Wait, what do you mean? Skits with people with your stories? Get this boy some new shoes. Get me some high heels so I can be like Zelensky. That'd be so funny. Like, that'd be so fucking funny. Zelensky shows up to the White House in high heels. I told him to wear a tie. I told him to wear a tie. He didn't. He wore 8-inch stilettos. What are those? JD Vance, what are those? What are those? What are those? Da, 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 da. Da, da, da. Shit. Alright, so we got one more story. Hoka shoes? What's that? He's wearing Zelensky's. That'd be great. He comes in skiing into the White House. Also, it's so funny, like at the congressional, like, whatever, address. I swear to God, like, Trump enters into that like it's a fucking, like, WWE match. Like, I don't know why, just, like, the entrance and, like, you know what I mean? Just, like, the way the camera was fashioned. It looked like they were like, and in this corner, weighing in at 268 pounds. Covered in orange sheen. I don't know. It's just so funny, like, listening to people like in Congress, like, yelling stuff, and everybody's like yelling. It's just like, it kind of reminds me of like the UK Parliament, because isn't that what they do over there? They like yell things for some reason and scream and make a big fuss or whatever. That would be kind of funny if that's what it devolves into in like the American Congress. Because at least we have to keep our, I don't know, we have to hide our unprofessionality. Alright, dudes. Dudes and smooths. We got this last story here. The same carcinogen and Roundup glyphosate is in Girl Scout cookies. Glyphosate is the desiccant used to increase yields in wheat. Oh, the disinfect. Yeah, I guess that makes sense, because they would use glyphosate to avoid the wheat from... I mean, the glyphosate is used for Roundup, which is to kill weeds, but I assume they would also use that in the crops anyways, in the wheat. So it makes sense that there would be a crossover, but obviously it wouldn't be great for your hormones and shit. Also, Conspiracy Queen, tell us more conspiracies. That's like our favorite thing here. 86% of Americans consume glyphosate. Makes sense that it's in Girl Scout cookies, yeah. And Girl Scouts are the weeds. Yeah, I think they spray the glyphosate directly onto the Girl Scouts as they hand it out or something. and then it gets onto people, into the cookies, and then into people's mouths. Glyphosate dries wheat, increasing the yield and causing leaky gut as well as cancer. Oh, okay. And what would the definition of like leaky gut be? What's leaky gut? Babes, thank you for the gifter to Darla. YHV, welcome Darla. Increased intestinal permeability, a condition which is lining of the small intestine becomes damaged, allowing undigested food particles, toxins, and bacteria to leak into the bloodstream. Oh, this can trigger inflammation and immune system reactions, potentially contributing to various health issues. Okay. Possible symptoms of leaky gut: chronic bloating, gas, diarrhea, food-sensitive intolerance, fatigue, brain fog, joint pain, muscle aches, skin conditions, autoimmune reactions. Potential causes: poor diet, chronic stress, dysbiosis, imbalanced gut bacteria, overuse of medication like NSAIDs, ibuprofen, aspirin, antibiotics, acid reducers, toxins and heavy metals, excessive alcohol consumption, chronic infections. Ways to support gut health: reduce processed foods, sugar, gluten, alcohol, eat more fiber, vegetables, fruits, fermented foods, take probiotics and prebiotics to balance gut bacteria, manage stress, meditation, exercise, sleep, support gut lining with collagen, L-glutamine, bone broth, limit NSAID and unnecessary antibiotics. I guess fasting, right? Fasting's probably a big one. Yes, thank you. Among other things, went back to my old name. Oh, no worries. So I'm going to show support by giving you guys a wee little gifterson to thank you for being here tonight. Oh, boom. And Metapause sucks. Thank you for the 2. Welcome Mischievous Frog, No Frowns, Level 20 Mudkip, Sean Leary, Athena K, Dodongo Manhoof, Young Hollywood, The Salty Gamer, Katie Flowers, and Lenny Love. Welcome, friends. You now have access to bonus content. I know, it is scary. It is honestly just like terrifying how... Well, I don't know. I guess at the end of the day, it's like... Would you rather be fed in an expedited fashion, affordably, or live to be 150 like that old corpse in Appalachia who started seeing like end of the world demons in her hallucinations? I don't know. I guess it's up in the air at this point. What kind of life you want? Certainly don't want to, yeah. You want to be fed, you want to be bred. That sounds like a perfect life. Among the shadowy hollers of 19th century rural Tennessee, damn, I was gonna say Texas. I want healthy food safely, not at our detriment. That's a good point, honestly. And honestly, you just have to be like way more wary of like every possible thing you consume, which, you know, I guess is a fun little exercise. Keep you on your toes. You're like, which one's gonna give me cancer? Who knows? If there's more than one ingredient, toss it out. I really hope they push something to help the regulation of certain stuff that they allow in our foods that are banned in other countries. Don't count on it. But that would be nice. Among the shadowy hollers of 19th century rural Tennessee, a series of terrifying occurrences would come to etch themselves into American folklore as some of the most sinister ever recorded. It was a force of malevolence so palpable, so relentless, that it claimed a life, drove a family to the brink of madness, and left a legacy of fear that lingers in the air of Robertson County to this day. But the force in question was no mere ghost story whispered around campfires. She was a woman who actually existed, and over time her deeds and devilry would earn her the nickname, the Bell Witch. This is not a tale of vague apparitions or spurious sightings. This is the true account of a presence so vile it defied explanation, and a nightmare that clawed its way into reality and refused to let go. The Bell family, consisting of John Sr., his wife Lucy, and their 9 children, had settled into their sprawling farmstead in 1804, and had since carved out a life of relative comfort amid the untamed beauty of the Tennessee frontier. For more... My cat's like clawing on the couch, but I can't. He's like on the other side of the couch. I don't know. There's still like a part of me that, on like a double conspiracy side, worries that the characters such as RFK and Elon and all those people that seems to be making a lot of like conservative types who tend to not trust government in the first place, even though most people don't trust the government, which is one of the nice things that most people on left and right could agree upon. But it's weird. It's like left and right don't trust the government, but for some reason have such a strong identity with these hopeful governing, like politicians that they still put their faith into. So it's always kind of like this cognitive dissonance in a way on both sides, where we hate the government, don't trust it as sort of a unified whole in this sort of ambiguous sense. But for some reason, when we associate it with our favorite person and identity, it's suddenly all of that distrust like goes away, or I don't really get it. But anyways, I feel like there's like this weird psyop going on where like people on the conservative side have been like led to believe that some sort of like counter culture thing has like won in government, but in reality I almost feel like it's just a way for them to like put more faith into government, so that whenever the RFK guy gets into the health, positions of power related to health and vaccines and whatever the fuck, Elon, all those characters, that, it's just going to make you trust the government in a way that was maybe prior lost, but in reality no difference is actually going to come of it, and in fact maybe there would just be further yeah, you see where I'm going with that though. But I just feel like we're getting doubly duped in weird ways. Maybe I'm wrong. Probably. I guess if I don't go into like details about something, it's not really that good of a point. But there's just sort of like a gut feeling that I have where everyone sits there and thinks that like, your side won, or whatever side. But I don't think there's any sides. I don't think sides are really anything other than just to like atomize us and divide us on the domestic side, or the domestic level, What I don't understand about politics nowadays is the hardcore both sides don't believe that people can have opinions that are different from their own. Yeah, it's just it really is just media, at the end of the day. The repetitious nature of spinning a yarn, You as the media, you have a lot of responsibility of like telling the truth, and we've had media that just doesn't tell the truth anymore, and it's like legal to put out propaganda to the majority of the population. And if you do that enough, if you repeat a lie big enough over a period of time, less than a decade at this point, and probably beyond that, you've eventually created a foundation, in the sense of like the sedimentary rock of like division is already there, that now people are so, their heels are dug so deep into the identity of politics that it's, to admit defeat at this point is to admit like a loss of identity, I suppose. You know what I mean? It's almost like it's like the Japanese soldier who died for the God King or something in the past, and now it's like there's no real going back because of what you've done and what you've said to people has been so heinous for so long, that to sit there and like have a realization that every aspect of your identity and reality pertaining to like power structures is false is to say that you in yourself is false, you know what I mean, at the same time. And that, you know, that's really hard for people to do, to sit there and like actually look internally and wonder like, am I wrong? Should I have been that way to my loved one? Should I have talked to them? Should I have left that group chat? Should I have been so mean to that person because they thought differently than me? I mean, objectively speaking, if like you had a point that you believe is very true, you should be decent at articulating that to someone else. But most people usually aren't very articulate, you know, and they don't know how to. And whenever you can't voice your opinion about something in a way that effectively communicates your position, you get angry. I get that way too. I'm like, fuck, I don't know what to say, so I'm mad at you, and I'm just gonna show and express a tantrum to, like I did when I was a little kid when I couldn't explain myself, you know? And it's just how we are as people, you know. We don't, when talking doesn't work, all we have is emotion, and we flail our arms around and stuff. The study where people were to amp shock on someone all knew 255 joules was lethal, all 100% went to 250 joules. The 6% went all the way to our psychopath person was already dead. Yeah, I forget what that study was, but yeah, because they were told to just keep doing it, they did. And maybe that's how it works. Maybe in a lot of ways, like our brains look at the media as sort of an authority figure. So if the authority figure is always kind of presenting a certain presentation of reality, it's telling you a story, because that's kind of how we learn as humans. We tell each other stories. If what we perceive to be the authority figure or the authority structure is always telling us a lie, it's really hard for us to like ever break free of trusting that authority figure and realizing that we're just being lied to over and over again. Hold up, so you be saying we some kind of suicide squad? I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't think so. Authority. They place the blame on the proctor. Okay. Yeah, and I mean, I guess that's usually how it goes. Like, once you're faced with the reality that you did wrong, it's much easier to displace your blame to the authority figure. But, you know, it's tough. It's honestly tough to not, you know, to go against the grain of of what you perceive to be majority opinion, because if you deviate from majority opinion in our older, you know, tribalistic state, we could be kicked out of a tribe and ostracized, and then now we're far away from the comfort and the warmth of the fire and the protection of the tribe, and we could be eaten by, you know, we could starve to death, we could be eaten by panthers, you know, by T-Rex or whatever, you know what I mean? So it's like a similar sense where we don't want to be ostracized. We're very heavily motivated internally to fit in, even if it means giant spiders. Even if it means that we have to be psychopathic about the things that we stand on. Anxiety attack absolutely sapped my energy, so I'm going to take a break from chat and just listen for a bit. No worries, yeah. Ostracized, it means when you get turned into an ostrich after getting bit by a giant spider. I do think shots going down in the next 4 years in some way, though. It's been coming to a head for years now. Yeah, I don't know about that, but I guess when it comes to like society breaking down, it usually happens very fast, you know? And it probably would precipitate from some sort of financial collapse, whatever that might be, which my fear is that it's going to be, you know, it's like the financial system's already relatively controlled in many ways, and then it's being like propped up constantly by all these like bailouts. And if for some reason they just like decide to not do any further bailouts, you know, you could see certain economic systems begin to just break down, and it could lead to a global thing. And that's when, you know, because I mean, like, really, money and whatever, you know, these resources that we exchange between each other are just sort of like made up. So if that made-up system suddenly decides that it's no longer worth anything anymore, that's when things will suddenly and very abruptly implode on itself. It's nice how companies get bailouts, but we don't. Yeah, I know. I mean, they're the ones in control. They're the ones who buy out the government. I mean, that's the unfortunate thing about the American political system, is that you can purchase it. You know what I mean? Like, it's for sale. Every one of those politicians are for sale, or you can get to them and you can create your own politician. It's literally a create a character, and then you can run them however you want. And you know, some people in positions of power literally get to like kids when they're young and like groom them to become politicians for decades. So it's a sad system. It doesn't mean that I think we should like somehow centralize power to the government so that the ability to purchase it would be less capable of happening. But at the same time, I don't know, we just live in an imperfect world, and all we can do is look out for yourself, you know. They want the economic collapse so the rich can soak up the cheap assets. I mean, that's usually what happens, you know. You look at like post-COVID, it was like inflate the economy by a shit ton and nobody can go to work, and then all of a sudden BlackRock was able to buy up like how many fucking properties with cash, with, you know, and no interest on like almost there was like next to no interest, so people were just buying up those, like if you could afford it, like that was the time to like buy property before the value of properties like artificially exploded. And now, I mean, another one of those events, and you can imagine not a single fucking person is ever going to be able to like do an entry-level home anymore, you know. It's all gonna, at the very least, you're gonna pay fucking $500,000 for a fucking duplex townhome. Like, fuck that shit. I mean, it's nice, some of them are nice, but can you imagine saving up the down payment for a $500,000 townhome that you have to like share with some dickhead next to you, you know? It's just, I don't know, it's lame. The middle class is slowly just getting eroded over time. It's frustrating they can't write paragraphs in this chat. Such an interesting question that deserves more than one liners. Yeah, no, it's tough. I mean, I would read, you know, your multiple line thing. You might just have to space it out so it doesn't make you like say you're doing spam or something. The government's like turmoil and chaos and keep all of us separated and against each other. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just the atomization of everything. They don't want you to ever agree with your community. They don't want you to ever come together because, and it's weird because they just sort of operate as this like abstract parasitic thing. It's like you technically elected them. They technically shouldn't have any more constitutional power than you do, but because they control the hierarchy, it's like they have no skills. They provide no skills other than like being in charge of the hierarchy and making decisions that are reinforced by military. So it's like there's nothing about them that we've ever like really usually ever agree upon, other than the fact that we agree that voting somehow matters or whatever, which it technically does because it leads them into a position of hierarchical power, but it just sucks that they never do anything that we want them to do, you know? The collapse of the economy will also be the pretense for the orange man to say we can't have elections. Yeah, it's a solid theory. You know, I like, you know, end of world style theories, end of nation style theories. That would certainly create a lot of division within the nation. To sit there and have the orange man, who's already like a contentious creature amidst 50% of the population, to then kind of become a self-fulfilling prophecy for a lot of them, because they've been waiting for, like, you know, his rise to Hitler moment for a while. So if you actually gave it to them, then that would create the chaos in which you can then come and pluck power from, because that's kind of how it goes. It's like a phoenix. It's like you have to burn it down so that you can create a new. That's usually from the, from chaos create order. That's usually just like how. And then a lot of that sometimes is what the Hegelian dialectic, or where it's like problem, reaction, solution type scenario, They know they program with flashing screens via TVs and phones. It hacks the brain to program. Dude, I swear to God, sometimes I see my phone. This sounds stupid, but I literally swear I can like feel when my phone like flashes like some sort of like infrared bullshit into my eyes. Like I swear sometimes just out of the corner of my eye I can see like infrared like shoot into my eye real fast. Like it's taking a picture or like a scan of my heat. Or something. I know that sounds fucking schizo, but I legitimately feel like I can see it, And it frustrates me because it's like I'm getting like zapped real fast. I'm like, what the fuck? You're right though, at what point does the poverty of the lessers outweigh the opulence of Elon Musk and make the American dollar fail? I don't know. I have no idea. I guess it would just be like a slow erosion, probably. I mean, there will be like certain catalysts like COVID that will continue to erode the middle class in the same way it did at a rapid pace, but it's always going to be like just enough that you don't go fucking nuts. You know what I mean? Just like kind of like drip feed, then a big drip feed, and then drip feed, you know what I mean? Like just slowly making it so you will fulfill the prophecy of like owning nothing and being happy, because over time, your perception of it comes down to what your perception is, to be happy, really. It's more of a idea. So if you just never knew what it was like to own multiple homes and like have to just work like a singular job as like and have a stay-at-home wife or whatever, then you'll never actually complain about getting back to whatever that might be. Sometimes it seems to read my mind even when it's not near me. I mean, I guess I wouldn't be surprised if it could take like some sort of scan of your brain and then correlate it to like scans of millions of other like human brains and determining what it is they're thinking or feeling in that moment. And then also, I mean, obviously there's also the idea that it cross-references like your contacts. So like if you have a friend that you message all the time and they've already searched up on Amazon like, big dragon dildos or whatever, you might get a big dragon dildo ad just because of like cross-referencing. The Bell family, consisting of John Sr., his wife Lucy, and their 9 children, had settled into their sprawling farmstead in 1804, and have since carved out a life of relative comfort amid the untamed beauty of the Tennessee frontier. For more than a decade, their days were marked by the rhythm of toil and harvest, the creak of wagon wheels, and the laughter of their many children. But in the summer of 1817, everything changed. It began with a knock on the cabin walls, sharp and insistent, like knuckles rapping on the other side of the grave. The family dismissed it, claiming the sound was the result of a wind. It's a wind! What story is this? This is story 3 of 3. It's about the Bell Witch. The Bell Witch is a bitch. The well bitch. Sorry. Alright. How did I know what you were looking up? I also am privy to a lot of info. Too much info. The family dismissed it, claiming the sound was the result of wind on a loose branch or perhaps a restless animal. But then came the scratches, clawing at the windows as if something begged to be allowed inside. Night after night, the sounds grew louder, more deliberate, until the Bells could no longer deny them. John Bell Sr., a hardy, no-nonsense farmer with a dour demeanor, was the first to glimpse their vile visitor in the flesh. While walking through his cornfield one sweltering afternoon, he suddenly froze as a grotesque creature seemingly materialized before his eyes. he saw a dog-like beast with the head of a rabbit, its eyes glinting with a fiendish and unnatural hunger. In an instant, he shouldered and fired his musket, but as the shot echoed across the field, the canine creature vanished into thin air, leaving only the stench of sulfur and a creeping dread in its wake. That night, the knocking returned, fiercer and angrier than before, as if the beast had followed John Sr. home. The children began to see things too. Betsy, John's youngest daughter, wept as she described a girl in a green dress swinging from an oak tree, her neck twisted at an impossible angle. While Drury, one of his sons, swore a bird of monstrous size had flown down and perched itself atop the family barn, before staring at him with eyes that burned like fire and brimstone. And over time, the disturbances escalated with a ferocity that turned the Bells' family cabin into a crucible of terror. Furniture shook violently, while bed covers were ripped from sleeping bodies by invisible hands. Chains rattled across the floorboards, dragged by no discernible force, and the sightings of strange animals continued unabated. Then came the voices. They were mere whispers at first, hissing through the walls, followed by a raspy, guttural tone that seemed to claw its way up from the deepest circles of hell. "I am Kate," they declared. Suddenly, things started to make sense to old John Bell. Kate Batts had been the name of a deceased local woman rumored to have once cursed him over a land dispute. Yet whether it truly was her spirit or something far older masquerading in her name, no one could say. However, what was clear was that the spirit spoke with clarity that chilled the Bell family's blood, mocking them, revealing their deepest secrets, and taunting them with hints of horror yet to come. Little Betsy Bell, who was just 12 years old at the time, became Kate's favorite target, as the witch poured her wrath upon her with a cruelty that defies comprehension. My voice kind of squeaked a tad. Can we do a video but of your life story? I don't think my life story is that interesting, to be honest. I wouldn't be opposed to... You can ask me whatever. I've literally done nothing that cool other than this YouTube channel. Our data is the biggest currency next to our footprints. Quantum tech can replicate our thought patterns with 95% accuracy. Is how now you can create digital deceased family via vids. Damn, dude. That's crazy. Now, what do you mean quantum tech can replicate our thought patterns with 95% accuracy? Like, what is a quantum computer doing? I'm actually Batman. True. I was thinking about Hawaiian pizza the last time I had ham with pineapple on it and why people made that jump. I'll be waiting by my mailbox for the spam. I do like Hawaiian pizza, honestly, as long as everything tastes good. Quantum leapfrog. It's so strange. Like, I don't think I know anything about nanotech. I don't think I know anything about quantum computers. Can you imagine? Like, imagine nanotechnology creating quantum computers, like, within your bloodstream. And you would have no fucking clue. There's, like, weird dimensional shit occurring, like, within your body on a DNA level. I don't know. I mean, it sounds cool when I say it, but I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I've had posts on Instagram about things I've only thought about, never spoken or written. AI compiles hundreds of search site activity. Every chat or digital vid of you and everything on phones can be accessed to replicate loved ones. Yeah, I guess, yeah. If it's able to replicate all of that and compile all the data, it could be quite accurate with every form of thought. It definitely could anticipate all of your moves based on, like, where you go to eat, who you hang out with, what they are into, where you travel, what you do. That is fascinating, honestly, because we are honestly getting to a point where I would not be surprised if there's some degree of pre-crime. I mean, we already have, like, this very strange type of, like, strange type of person that we're like breeding within the population, who's, because of the divisionary aspect of left versus right, a lot of them, more specifically on the left, are like people who tend to, not all of them, but like I noticed a lot of them like talk a lot about like pre-crime or like thought crimes. You know, they anticipate that you are a quote piece of shit because of how you've acted in a certain circumstance, which matches a certain pattern to something that opposes their perspective, and therefore you are just as evil as da. You know, and the logic never really is sound, but it's definitely there in the sense that that can be extrapolated to the concept of eventually, you know, hunting the witch or trying someone for a pre-crime, and at least in the thought sense, but I don't know. The phones have one on the screen too that takes the screenshots of you. I wonder if you can like cover up the camera or something, or if it's just, since it's like infrared, you would like have no idea. Minority Report told us everything we know. I think one of the worst things is that like a lot of science fiction, like Minority Report, it just inspires these scientists, right? So you have to actually think to yourself, what if there's some ideas in your head that you almost like don't want to say out loud because you're worried that you might inspire some other scientist out there to do or create or help assist in the creation of, through compartmentalization, a dystopian technology that should have never have seen the light of day, but because one, you know, little synapse in the human collective consciousness came up with an idea, it took humanity down a very dark, dark path. Do you remember when people used to put tape over their laptop webcams? Now we're always on camera and you can't tape them all. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, what I mean, so if you put tape on your phone cameras, what, it goes right through it. You wouldn't even be able to hide. Minority Report is the slow leak of truth. Black Mirror and sci-fi slow declassification gives us free will to see truth. I guess that makes sense too. I mean, like, if it already is in existence, then it's sort of just drip feed. It's like predictive programming, where it's almost making you comfortable with the fact that it will exist, which I guess is an intelligent way to kind of like roll out concepts, is put it in entertainment so people will be like, whoa, dude, that could happen. And then it does happen, and you're like, I'm familiar with it, and I'm comfortable with it. It's our destiny, I guess. But it's strange because it's like a destiny that, like, when people say it's our destiny, it wasn't my choice to, you know, to be a mean government, you know? But it's strange to think that, like, why is it that there's not just sort of a collective human consciousness in positions of power that ever just decide upon, like, good, you know? Like, active, like, almost in this, like, sort of counter power, you know, to just always, when, you know, when you sit there and say, like, do good. But maybe we're just, like, so easily corrupted on every facet of a hierarchy that it's just impossible to ever do good as a collective, because it's just so easily corrupted. I don't know, but whatever. Because money, I know, money's so annoying. Like, I get it, like, it's good to have, it's great, and it's one of the greatest motivators for everyone to do anything. But it's wild how, like, little that it actually takes to compromise someone's humanity for the most part. We gotta be chaotic and stupid. It's what makes humanity. But that's the thing. It's not what makes us. It's just that we are that, and then there's other types of humans that exploit it. You know what I mean? Like, the only reason that certain people in positions of power are able to accomplish a lot of tasks is because they utilize the genius on, like, the rank and file side, motivate them with money, and then get them to, you know, essentially exist within compartmentalized systems that achieve said dystopian goal or power grab or whatever it might be. And it pisses me off because I'm like, how do you interrupt that hierarchy in some way? How do you how do you change the consciousness of all those that participate in it, that they are brave enough to just say no thanks, I don't want to be a part of this, and then everybody says they don't want to be a part of it, and then I don't know. Little Betsy Bell, who was just 12 years old at the time, became Kate's favored target, as the witch poured her wrath upon her with a cruelty that defies comprehension. Invisible fists pummeled her fragile frame, leaving bruises and welts that bloomed like dark flowers across her skin. Her hair was yanked into knots so tight that it drew blood, with her screams swallowed by the night as the witch's ethereal voice cackled in delight. "You'll never know peace," it snarled, pinning her to the bed with a weight no human could lift. Pinning her to the bed with a weight no human could lift. The family watched, helpless, as Betsy's bright spirit withered under the relentless assault. Her eyes grew hollow, and her voice was reduced to a mere whimper as the witch continued to deny her any rest. Neighbors flocked to the farm, drawn by tales of the disturbances, only to flee in terror as the witch turned its malice on them. It twisted up their insides, causing unimaginable pain, while hurling objects and shrieking curses that echoed through the trees. The witch might have targeted his children for particularly cruel torment, but it was the family's patriarch, John Sr., who bore the brunt of the witch's ultimate vendetta. She vowed to destroy him, and she pursued her goal with a sadistic and satanic zeal. His health unraveled as the haunting intensified. His tongue was swelled inexplicably, choking off his words. His face twitched with spasms that contorted into a mask of agony, while his limbs seized as if controlled by some cruel and malevolent mistress. The witch taunted him endlessly, her voice a venomous hiss in his ears. "I'll take your life, John Bell, and I'll dance on your grave." Eventually, on December 20th of 1820, after 3 years of relentless torment, John Sr.'s body finally failed him. He was found lifeless in his bed, having passed in his sleep with a vial of strange, foul-smelling liquid beside him. The family later confirmed it was poison, supposedly fed to him by the witch. The state of Tennessee recorded John's death as the only one officially attributed to a supernatural entity, a grim testament to the power of old Kate Batts, as well as the entity with which she'd compacted. Those without a conscience have a superpower and are able to do terrible things without a worry. It's a game for them. Yeah. I feel like it's got to hit them at some point, but maybe every one of us are compromised along the way in some way, you know what I mean? Maybe even at like some of the highest positions of decision making, there's a fear that if they stop their decision making that sort of subjugates people to pain, that they themselves will then be subject to said pain in response or something. So it's just like this perpetuating state of suffering because of fear of suffering. So it's like sort of just a dog chasing its own tail. Your favorite conspiracy is the one where our DNA carries God's name within our DNA. Interesting. The state of Tennessee recorded John's death as the only one officially attributed to a supernatural entity. I keep saying entity. Jesus Christ. The witch. So wait, this is recorded in Tennessee history as actually of happening? Is it true? And has there been a movie about the Bell Witch? Because this sounds like it would be a great fucking like it starts off slow, happy family, all that kind of thing, and then it just goes into this like absolutely fucking terrifying haunting. The state of Tennessee recorded John's death as the only one officially attributed to a supernatural entity, a grim testament to the power of old Kate Batts, as well as the entity with which she'd compacted. Even Andrew Jackson, Jack Sean, the Bell Witch Oh yeah, was this the Blair Witch Project? I don't even know. Was this what they based it on? Even Andrew Jackson, the fearless general and future president, proved unable to withstand the Bell Witch's fury. In 1819, he and his men camped at the Bell family's farm, eager to confront whatever entity
Come on, dude, I feel myself doing it right, and then I just don't out of nowhere, man.
I think bring beholden to others and worry about their pain in the very fabric of civilization. Being beholden to others and worrying about their pain is the very fabric of civilization. Yeah. Being beholden to others, yeah. Right, yeah, I guess there would have to be something along the way where you do just enough to detach yourself from that sense of kinship to other humans. Something in your brain just snaps and you are no longer, because you can imagine, like, one of the patterns that I've noticed, and it's not for everyone, obviously the mind can heal, but if you can imagine throughout time, it seems that there's some degree of, like, as far as psychopaths go, it's like you were born damaged in some fashion, right? Which is rare, but it could be the case. You were abused, right? And then that led you to abusing others or hurting others. You hit your head. Sometimes, like, just literally hitting your head can, like, change, your brain chemistry or whatever the fuck, the brain structure, to then have psychopathic tendencies. And then participating in the military, I thought, was like one of the ones that whenever we cover true crime stuff, where it's like people who get out of the military but still seem to, like, something turned off in their mind while they were there that makes them completely deconditioned to exist within society, external from, like, a desire for killing. Killing is just what they need now, and what they want. And obviously through, like, probably a therapeutic process, they're probably able to assimilate back into society, but it's got to be difficult. And I do wonder sometimes, maybe in the past, for, like, long periods of time, there's people like that, generals, individuals that did have to fight the front lines, who were always in positions of making decisions that maybe they put certain things into, like, a cascade of effect that just, because they were psychopathic from their traumatic military experience, they just had constant desires for power over people that extended to dominating others and domineering. I don't know. Some people are just born inherently evil. I don't know about that. You know what I mean? At least from what we've looked at here in true crime, I'm not sure. I mean, we did cover the one guy recently, the Albert Fish guy, right? But, like, he had I think he had mental disabilities upon birth, and he was severely abused, which then that was like a wombo combo in some way. In 1819, he and his men camped on the Bell family's farm, eager to confront whatever entity inhabited the place. But as the wagon approached, its wheels locked inexplicably and the air filled with a deafening, hair-raising shriek. "I'd rather face the British Army than spend another night here," Jackson reportedly declared, fleeing before dawn with his troops in tow. If a man of his conviction was left quaking before the witch, what hope did a family of simple farmers have against it? The witch's reign of terror didn't end with John's death. It lingered, tormenting Betsy and the surviving Bells until 1821, when it abruptly announced its departure, but not without promising to return after 7 years. And true to its word, it reappears in 1828, shaking beds and whispering threats to Lucy and the remaining children before vanishing again. It vowed another return in 1935, 107 years later, and although no widespread haunting materialized, locals in Adams in Adams? Is that the area? Physical damage to the brain can do things too, especially if it involves the frontal lobe. Think Phineas, Gage, or lobotomies. Yeah, exactly. Makes a lot of sense. Some people are born with a demon attached to them from the things their ancestors have done. Trust me, I've done my research. I like that idea. I'm just not, I'm not sure. Like, I'm more inclined to think, I don't know. I like that idea, though. But it would suck that if, shit your ancestor did would lead to, you being cursed in some weird way that's, like, spiritual and not just, like, tangible. It vowed another return in 1935, 107 years later, and although no widespread haunting materialized, locals in Adams insist the entity never truly left. Strange lights flicker in the woods, disembodied screams pierce the silence of the night, and the Bell Witch Cave, a limestone hollow near the original farm, still undulates with an energy that drives visitors to the brink of sanity. Upon visiting the Bell Witch Cave, foolhardy visitors are greeted by what amounts to a gaping maw, its jagged walls glistening with slime and damp, while the air remains thick with a cloying and deeply unsettling stench. Those who brave its depths report footsteps echoing where no one walks, growls rumbling from the shadows, and a suffocating sense of being watched. In I would not like to order the Wombo combo. You fully believe in demons of some sort? I mean, this sounds pretty creepy here. So, I mean, honestly, who knows? Maybe some people... Like, I really do sometimes think that, like, I get... Like, the psychopathic theory does make some sense. People are just disconnected from others. But what if there are people in the highest positions of power that are, like, deeply connected to strange demonic entities in weird ways? Whatever they might be. I mean, it would explain their just like absolute disregard for human life. I mean, it's weird to me, like this desire to just like keep certain conflicts going and going and going and going, like at the expense of like hundreds of thousands of lives, if not millions. It's just, it's weird. It's like, how can you be comfortable sending so many like young people to just like have the shortest life ever or come back with like the most scarred mind, just a completely fucked and destroyed mind, and like to sit there and have to ponder within the setting of like war of whether or not what you did was even right, and to ask yourself if like, the grander purpose that you were fighting for had any meaning at all. Like that's not good to do to a person, Even worse to send them to hell, In 1986, two reporters from the Tennessean... Oh wait, I think I skipped something. Did I full-heartedly agree by the amounts of gaping maw, unsettling stench, this too? Yeah, I'd probably just do that one again. King Charles is from the bloodline of Dracula. I do remember seeing that pop up. That was fucking weird, because Dracula is what? Vlad the Impaler? That's like who actually is Dracula. And that to me was very strange. But I remember hearing that like King Charles purchased Dracula's or like Vlad the Impaler's like castle, and well, you know what? I'm gonna look it up just to see it. I don't want to say something like totally stupid, but did King Charles purchase Dracula's castle? Do I believe in hell? I think so. No, King Charles did not purchase Dracula's castle, Bran Castle in Romania. However, he is a well-known personal connection in Romania and Transylvania. He is a descendant of Vlad the Impaler, the historical figure who inspired Dracula through his great-grandmother Queen Mary. King Charles has also expressed deep admiration for Romania, especially the Transylvania region, and owns several properties there. He has invested in the area's conservation and rural heritage, particularly in Vissery, where he owns a guest house. While he's visited Bran Castle, there is no record of him purchasing it. What has his visitations to Bran Castle entailed? He lives in the castle. That's what I heard. Like that spends extended time there, but maybe I'm wrong. Charles visited Bran Castle, often linked to Dragon, multiple times, but his visits have generally been ceremonial and cultural rather than personal ownership. Multiple times? That's so fucking weird. As someone deeply interested in Romania's rural and historical heritage, Charles has visited Bran Castle as a cultural site. The castle is marked as Dracula's castle due to its resemblance to Bram Stoker's description, though there's no historical evidence that Vlad the Impaler ever lived there. Okay. While some of his visits were private, others involved media coverage, with Charles being given guided tours and discussing Romania's medieval history. Weird, though. That many fucking visits? I mean, I guess it's his family's history, but I don't know. It's just strange. His visits to Bran Castle have also coincided with his broader efforts in Romania, such as promoting conservation, sustainable tourism, and historic preservation. But why there specifically? I guess just because family? It's just weird. Charles has personal ties to Romania's aristocracy. Okay. That's even stranger. In 2012, the Habsburg family. I guess it's not that strange that someone within a royal family would have connections to royal families. The castle's private owners even offered Charles the honorary title of Prince of Transylvania as a nod to his ancestry and contributions to the region. We're going down a rabbit hole. In hell, we have reasonably priced decent quality paper towels, and I don't run over massive potholes 10 times a day. I'm dead, by the way, and in hell. That doesn't sound terrible. Some conspiracy circles claim that Charles' ancestral link to Vlad the Impaler is proof of occult or vampiric ties. This is partly based on Charles joking in 2011 that he is a descendant of Dracula, and that it explains his frequent visits to Romania. His descendance from Vlad the Impaler is real. It comes through Queen Mary, his great-grandmother. However, the idea that this gives him supernatural or sinister traits is obviously not grounded in reality. Some claim Charles has a secret ownership stakes in Bran Castle and is planning to turn it into a private estate or stronghold. Others suggest he's buying up land in Transylvania for a hidden purpose, possibly to secure a retreat in case of global collapse. Some believe Transylvania holds esoteric significance for global elites, with whispers of hidden relics, bloodlines, and energy hotspots. Some claim that Bran Castle or other Romanian sites are connected to secret societies like the Freemasons or the Illuminati. Some claim that Charles' visits to Transylvania are part of secret rituals tied to bloodlines, immortality, or elite occult practices. The idea is fueled by the Bran Castle Dracula connection and Romania's deep vampire mythology. Well, damn. Zam. Alright. Do flips on it, Joey. Do flips on it. I don't just want you to bounce on it. I want you to do flips on it. Upon visiting the Bell Witch Cave, foolhardy visitors are greeted by what amounts to a gaping maw, its jagged walls glistening with slime and damp, while the air remains thick with a cloying and deeply unsettling stench. Those who brave its depths report fart steps. Those who brave its depths report footsteps echoing where no one walks, growls rumbling from the shadows, and a suffocating sense of being watched. In 1986, 2 reporters from the Tennessean planned to spend a night inside, armed with skepticism and flashlights. Yet staff writer David Gerard and staff photographer Bill Wilson lasted mere hours before bolting, driven out by guttural noises that swelled into a roar, a sound no cave should make. It was a short, powerful burst of sound that reverberated from the back of the cave and hit us like a slap, Gerard later wrote. It was not a metallic screech or the howl of wind. It was a vocal, loud, high-pitched scream, and we looked at each other, got through that gate, and quickly left the cave behind us. Of course, logically speaking, we frightened ourselves with our imaginations, Gerard continued, or someone very much alive and human frightened us for fun and profit. Those are the reasonable explanations. But on the night in question, with my scalp tingling and my hair rising, our fear seemed reasonable, common sense. Gerard and Wilson seemed convinced that what they'd encountered was real, but was it actually the Bell Witch? And if so, what exactly is she? And many theories abound. Some call it Kate Bat's vengeful spirit, others a poltergeist fueled by Betsy Bell's adolescent turmoil. Yet some believe a demon, masquerading as some kind of spirit, is to blame. Science offers tepid explanations. Heavy metal poisoning might well account for John's symptoms, while mass hysteria seems to amplify and explain the rest. Yet such scientific theories fall theorities. I like dubstep. I like Black Mill, the band Black Mill. They're pretty good dubstep. How's your buttersock coming? It's good. We're Oh wait, it's actually Judith. It's actually live. Once you reach the, I think, 5-year mark, you will get that emoticon. Yet such scientific theories fall flat against the hundreds of witnesses, from neighbors to clergy to President Jackson himself, who saw, heard, and felt the Bell Witch's wrathful presence. And surely no such hoax could sustain such terror for decades, nor would one be capable of leaving such a lasting scar on such a close-knit community. Today, the Bell family farm is long gone, but the Witch's Cave remains a pilgrimage site for thrill-seekers and paranormal investigators alike. Every creak of the trees, every unexplained shadow, carries the echo of old Kate Bat's mysterious malice. Locals speak of her in hushed tones, wary of invoking her name lest she turn her gaze their way. The Bell Witch is no campfire tale to be shrugged off at dawn. It's a wound in the fabric of reality, a reminder that some evils don't fade, they simply wait for its next victim. And in the stillness of the Tennessee night, when the wind dies and the darkness presses close, you might hear it. A faint knock, scratch, or whisper, Doo-doo buttersock. I just unlocked my doo-doo buttersock. Let It Be by Black Mill. Yeah, it's a good one, Fry. Let it be. A faint knock, scratch, or whisper, which promises that the tale of the Bell Witch is far from over. All right, we have done it, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. Let's read this outro. You think you introduced blackmail to me? No, dude. I found blackmail probably like back during college. I want to say like 2011. No. Alright. Google Dockingtons. I showed you. Uno reverse. Alright, somebody think of something funny for me to say at the end here. Hey friends, thanks for listening, and click that notification bell to be alerted of all future narrations. I release new videos every Monday and Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and there are super fun live streams on Sundays and Wednesday nights. If you get a story, be sure to submit them over at my email, letsreadsubmissions@gmail.com, and you might even hear your story featured on the next video. And if you want to support me even more, grab early access to all future narrations and bonus content over on Patreon, or click that big join button to hear about the extra perks for members of the channel. And check out the Let's Read podcast, where you can hear all of these stories and big compilations, located anywhere you listen to podcasts. All links in the description below. Thanks so much, friends, and remember, I gotta get my pad next time, take some notes. Yes. She ebbing on my knees or till I Scrooge. Yeah, we'll do that one, that's funny. You love me, I love you too. Thanks so much, friends, and remember, she ebbing on my kneeser till I Scrooge. That's funny. Alright, guys. Thank you for being awesome sauce. Absolute flippin' absolute heckin' lolcats, coolians here. You guys rock. You're fantastic. I love chilling with you. Thanks for getting the numbers up. Where are we at right now? Don't leave yet. I gotta see where are we at? Oh, it dropped. Alright, well, we were at 500 for a little while there, till we started talking about conspiracies. But anyways, I hope you have a great night. I'll go ahead and get this edited up on Patreon. It's only $1 a month over there for early access. And then I'll get it up on YouTube for our Thursday night upload, 9 p.m. EST. And I'll be back streaming probably this Sunday, so stay tuned for that. Otherwise, follow me on Instagram at letsread.official, and I will see you guys again soon. Okay. See you later.